Chapter 200. The blue sky and white clouds seemed to be within reach. The sky was vast, boundless, and majestic. The palaces towered into the clouds. Countless experts were in the immortal sects, but they couldn't reach the peak in this vast imperial region. A group of elite geniuses gathered in groups of 3 to 5. They looked at Yi Qinghan as if they were looking at a country bumpkin. "Kid, which star region are you from? Since the Heavenly Emperor personally brought you to the Imperial Domain, it seems that you have some ability. If you pass the hunter assessment, are you interested in joining our Heavenly Tiger Squad?" A 1-star hunter arrogantly asked with 4 ordinary hunters. "I'm Yi Qinghan from the desolate Xiaolong region. Nice to meet you all. It's my first time here. Please forgive me if there's anything I didn't do." Yi Qinghan didn't want to offend these super geniuses. Any one of them could be an invincible battle king in Xiaolong region. Hence, he took the initiative to cup his fist. Xiaolong region? What kind of place is that? Is there such a star region in the human territory of the endless universe? The 1-star hunter frowned and didn't give him any face. "I've never heard of it. It's probably some small star region that just formed. There aren't many geniuses there. A Dao sovereign expert can sweep through a region. Boss, let's talk about it after he becomes a hunter. Not everyone can pass the assessment," a member of the Sky Tiger Squad said. Although his tone was calm, it was obvious that he looked down on Yi Qinghan and the others. In fact, this situation was normal. It was difficult for a village kid to integrate with the geniuses of the big city. They were used to being high and mighty. The arrogance of the geniuses led to their attitude. "What's so great about being a hunter? If my master wants to become a hunter, he can do it with a wave of his hand." Si Wuxia looked coldly at everyone and snorted. "Kid, what did you say? Are you insulting the hunters?" The member of the Sky Tiger Squad angrily rebuked. "I'm not insulting the hunters. I'm just insulting you. Don't think that you're a genius. You've lived for so long and haven't even gotten a star rating. How dare you comment on your master? Who do you think you are?" Si Wuxia stood out. His golden hair and black robe were fluttering. F***CK. A rookie in the Dao Master Realm dares to take in a disciple, and a reckless one at that. "I will crush you right now." That person was furious and walked out from behind. "By June, just cripple him. There's no need to kill him. Don't say that we didn't give the great emperor face and bullied a child." Sky Tiger glared coldly at Stan Wuxia and Yi Qinghan. His hostility was obvious. If a battle team member was humiliated, they would feel humiliated as well. This was the glory of the battle team, and they would not tolerate any blasphemy. The corner of Baiju's mouth twitched as he stepped towards Yi Qinghan and Stan Wuxia. The invincible battle king of a domain had become an ordinary genius after coming to the sovereign domain. He was barely qualified to join the hunter team. His heart was already twisted. Bullying others and showing off his combat strength was his favorite thing to do. The members of the Heavenly Tiger battle team immediately surrounded them. As long as Yi Qinghan and company dared to gang up on them, they would definitely rush forward and attack together. Whoosh! Huang Xiaohu stood out and said provocatively, "Kid, you're an invincible battle king of a Dao master. It shouldn't be a problem for you to fight 2 fate palaces, right? Come at me together. It's not a problem even if the 3 of you come at me at the same time. Otherwise, you'll say that I'm bullying the weak." Baijun sneered and said disdainfully. The members of the insane sect were not going to stand on ceremony. Yi Mingxi was the first to stand out. "Then it'll be 3 against 1. I hope you lose. Your battle team won't act shamelessly and sneak up on us 3 kids." Yi Mingxi was very smart. She was the first to provoke the Heavenly Tiger battle team. "Ha ha ha, if the 3 of you win, we'll turn around and leave." The Heavenly Tiger battle team laughed as if they had heard the funniest joke. Stan Wuxia and the others looked at each other, revealing a sinister smile at the corners of their mouths. "Let's go." The three of them said in unison. The law of gravity. Thousandfold gravity, come. Bai Jun was caught off guard. Suddenly, he felt as if his legs were filled with lead. They were so heavy that he almost knelt down. Boom! Stan Wuxia threw a punch. His golden hair billowed. Flames shot out from his iron fist and golden light shone. There was a shattering sound of the void. Poof! Bai Jun's eyes rolled back. His body was torn apart. A mouthful of blood spurted out into the void. His body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Yi Mingxi's body shot out as fast as lightning. Her true ether poured out and turned into a sharp sword aimed at Bai Jun's throat. Her true ether spread to his limbs and bones, sealing his sea of qi. Even if it was only for a moment, it was enough. Swoosh! Swoosh! Stan Wuxia and Huang Xiaohu followed closely behind. Both of them were extremely strong as they violently attacked Bai Jun's body. Boom! 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 Every punch landed on his body. His skin and flesh were torn apart. Huang Xiaohu borrowed the strength of the earth and punched Bai Jun directly into the ground. The three of them flashed. The battle was completely one-sided. Bai Jun had no chance to retaliate. He was beaten senseless. The members of the Heavenly Tiger battle team looked gloomy. This was probably a sneak attack. One of them used the law of gravity while the other two attacked at the same time. Bai Jun had no chance to retaliate at all. But who could they blame for this? How many people could comprehend the law of gravity in the Fate Palace realm? Only a small number of supreme geniuses like them could comprehend the law of Great Tao in the Tao Master realm. Therefore, Bai Jun could only blame himself for being unlucky to have encountered such a genius. Yi Qinghan and the rest squinted at Heavenly Tiger. If the other party dared to attack, they would naturally attack together. Enough! Heavenly Tiger scolded coldly. But how could Stan Wuxia and the rest listen to him? His punches were even more violent and ferocious. He even activated the Grade 6 Celestial Dipper Glove and beat Bai Jun until he screamed in pain. The people around looked at each other. Everyone understood why Bai Jun lost so badly. It was because he did not look at the almanac. He encountered one who knew the law of gravity. Another was extremely strong. Another was extremely fast. It was impossible to defend against. What the people did not know was that Stan Wuxia did not use his full strength. Otherwise, he would have suppressed Bai Jun's blood with his golden bloodline alone. After fighting for so long, Bai Jun would have died long ago. Heavenly Tiger was not in a position to attack. He looked coldly at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yi Qinghan smirked. Since he had offended these people, he might as well offend them. It was a good opportunity to establish his authority and prevent others from bumping into the muzzle of a gun. Boy, are you going to fight to the death with us? Heavenly Tiger frowned and threatened. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan raised his hand and Berserker appeared in his hand. His aura changed drastically. He looked down at the Heavenly Tiger team and said coldly, "Since he dares to provoke us, he should be prepared to be beaten up. Do you want to be beaten up too?" Berserker. Everyone could not help but look at Yi Qinghan. There were not many young people who dared to speak to a one-star hunter like this. Yi Qinghan might be the first. Some powerful existences stared at Yi Qinghan. They were all planning in their hearts. If Yi Qinghan could kill Heavenly Tiger, then they would spend a lot of effort to pull Yi Qinghan into their team. The individual strength of a team had a fatal impact on the team's overall strength. They did not want trash, only true geniuses. Heavenly Tiger's aura stagnated. He was suppressed by Berserker and Yi Qinghan's aura. His terrifying aura rose sharply. He wanted to use the momentum of heaven and earth to suppress Yi Qinghan. Tsing, tsing, tsing. Some of the geniuses who had not yet passed the assessment did not dare to offend Heavenly Tiger. They could not withstand Heavenly Tiger's murderous aura and retreated. Mu Yu Tianchen and Gu Qingyu protected the juniors behind them. Their clothes fluttered in the wind, but they did not have any aura. They did not want to interfere in the battle of auras between the two experts. Yi Qinghan laughed and stepped forward calmly. A violent aura shot up into the sky and forcefully tore apart half of the momentum. He collided with the heavenly tiger, causing the stable ground beneath his feet to shatter. They were too weak to awaken the Emperor's formation. Layers of ripples spread out in the stable space. Both of their auras were about the same. Neither of them was willing to retreat. Interesting. He has not become a hunter, nor has he been baptized by the organization's murderous aura. Just his aura alone is comparable to Heavenly Tiger's. I wonder what his true strength is? A 2-star hunter said with interest. Not bad. Just his aura alone shows that his strength is not bad. If he can pass the assessment, I might let him join my demon-slaying battle team. A terrifying young genius looked at Yi Qinghan coldly. There was admiration in his eyes. Yi Qinghan's strength had not entered the eyes of true peerless geniuses. However, all the battle teams below 3 stars were interested in Yi Qinghan. Fight. It's better to fight with anger. F***ck, is he a hunter? Yeah, Heavenly Tiger, your team members have been beaten to a pulp. What are you waiting for? What the F***ck? Can he kill them with his aura alone? Can't you see that he doesn't even look at you? Many people were watching the show and mocked Heavenly Tiger. They wanted him to test Yi Qinghan's strength. There were also some who wanted to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson. After all, they were all hunters. Boom. See Wuxia sent by June flying with a punch, and shrugged his shoulders in disdain. This kind of invincible combat king lacked a foundation. He was not like the invincible geniuses of the big clans. The 3 juniors had arrogant looks on their faces as they rubbed their fists and returned to the group. 5 or 6 members of the Heavenly Tiger battle team looked gloomy as they glared at Yi Qinghan. They were waiting for Heavenly Tiger to give the order to crush these juniors. Boss, let's fight. These guys are too arrogant. Coincidentally, I don't have any missions for the next few days. I want to stretch my muscles. Ka. The 5 members of the Heavenly Tiger battle team shook their bodies and summoned their natal weapons. They glared at Yi Qinghan and the others. Yi Qinghan looked at the members of the Heavenly Tiger battle team with disdain. He said indifferently, Heavenly Tiger battle team? The one behind me is called Guangzhou. If you want to fight, you can fight one-on-one or in groups. Guangzhou, you're really arrogant. I just don't know if you have the qualifications to do so. Or do you think that the great Emperor will intervene in the battle of the younger generation? Heavenly Tiger sneered with killing intent. There's no need for the great Emperor to intervene. I'm confident in dealing with the Heavenly Tiger battle team, Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. Then I'll test you. I'll see if you have the qualifications to join the ranks of the hunters. Heavenly Tiger's aura suppressed most of the people. Only a few 1-star existences and above stood proudly and looked at the crowd indifferently. Kid, did you forget to check the almanac when you went out? You look like you're asking for a beating. The parrot popped its head out and scolded. P.S. Have you guys seen the book review event? 100,000 book coins. That's a reward of 1,000 coins. The reward is very generous. Participate enthusiastically. There's a detailed explanation in the book review section. Everyone, please spread the word. Chapter 201. As soon as the parrot appeared, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Sky Tiger and the others were already angry. Now that they were being scolded by a bird, they could not help but be furious. Everyone disperse, don't block us from watching the show. A guy who was not on good terms with Sky Tiger laughed loudly. Apparently, he was treating Yi Qinghan and the others like monkeys. Yi Qinghan's aura turned cold as he stared at that guy with murderous eyes. His name was Long Biao, and he was not on good terms with Sky Tiger. However, his brain was not very good. In this kind of situation, he actually said that he was going to watch a good show. You idiot, watch your sister's show. Watch a monkey show? Why don't you show this divine bird? The parrot unceremoniously mocked. Uncle, this uncle didn't even say anything. What the hell are you talking about? If you don't like this team, then fight them yourself. Otherwise, don't talk nonsense on the side. Shergu angrily rebuked as he raised his brick. Long Biao's face suddenly sank. Idiot, you deserve to be scolded. I really don't know how you cultivated to this level. Sky Tiger coldly looked at Long Biao and angrily rebuked. Our younger generation is indeed a bit hot-tempered, arrogant and unruly. However, I did not insult their dignity. No wonder you couldn't pass the assessment. With your attitude, you were able to be crowned king because of your family's background. Long Biao did not think that he would be implicated. Both sides were targeting him at the same time. He could not help but feel a little weak. The others were even more angry at him, thinking that he had ruined the show. You want to bully us with your numbers? Although this young master is alone, he is not afraid of you. Long Biao angrily glared at Yi Qinghan and the others. Even if they were not hunters, they were not afraid of Sky Tiger Team. It seemed that the Long family's background was not small. Why would I need so many people to fight you? Sky Tiger disdainfully ridiculed. The corner of Long Biao's mouth twitched. He had relied on his family to fight Sky Tiger for many years, but he had never won. Now that he was in the wrong, he did not dare to fight. In the end, he could only run away under the angry gazes of the crowd. After what Long Biao said, Yi Qinghan looked at Sky Tiger again. He didn't think that Sky Tiger was that bad. He was just too arrogant with his mouth. Sky Tiger looked at Yi Qinghan and the others who didn't hold back against Long Biao. He felt that Yi Qinghan wasn't that bad after all. He was just angered by his words. Both sides' tempers swiftly declined, and only Bai Jun admitted that he was unlucky. He was bashed wildly by 3 juniors to the point his entire body was bathed in a river of blood, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Let's talk about that after you take the test. I want to see if you have the right to be so arrogant. If you pass the test, I will apologize to you. If you fail, don't blame me for being impolite. Tian, who said ruthlessly and left with Bai Jun. Yi Qinghan also didn't want to fight with the crowd in such a situation. Seeing that Sky Tiger had left, he also left with the crowd. Emperor Abyss City was the largest city within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. It was a gathering place for heroes, and there were as many elites as dogs. If one didn't have some combat strength, he would be too embarrassed to go out for a stroll. Yi Qinghan and the others brought a group of young fellows to the front of Emperor Abyss City. They were shocked by the vastness and majesty of this place. The vicissitudes of time filled the air, and it contained the patterns of the great Tao. It was shocking. Looking at it would give one more insight. It is indeed the Central Imperial Region. A city has such achievement. How glorious is the human civilization! Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. What he saw was only the tip of the iceberg, and this city was the tip of the iceberg of the human civilization. But even this tip of the iceberg was enough to convince him. Everyone took a deep breath. No wonder so many geniuses looked down on them. Compared to the Central Imperial Region, the Xiaolong region was simply incomparable. TSK, TSK, TSK. As expected of the gathering place of the human civilization, this Central Imperial Region is boundless. It is divided into 9 stars, and the 9 top forces share the world. They protect the territory of the human race. As expected, they are not just for show. The parrot sighed. Yi Qinghan looked at the parrot and found that it indeed knew a lot. He suddenly thought of those words it said to the dead spirit, and asked curiously, "You've been to the forbidden area? That's impossible, right?" "I haven't been there. Obviously I haven't been there. Master, don't think too much. I was just fooling that dead spirit. The forbidden area is such a grand place. How could a little thing like me enter it?" The parrot's face turned serious, and righteously denied it. Are you fooling me? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He didn't believe this thing at all now. Master, don't worry. I won't fool you. I won't dare to fool you. The parrot looked at Yi Qinghan with a serious face, and expressed its loyalty. Then why is your name written on the stone tablet at the entrance of the forbidden area? Yi Qinghan asked unexpectedly. Since when is there a stone tablet at the entrance of the forbidden area? Why don't I know? The parrot immediately asked. Didn't you say you haven't been there? How do you know there is no stone tablet at the entrance of the forbidden area? Yi Qinghan asked with a cold smile. Inherited memories. You definitely don't understand me. I don't blame you. The parrot smiled embarrassedly. Yi Qinghan didn't want to communicate with the parrot anymore. He wanted to ask it a few questions, but it couldn't give him a proper answer. Now, even if the parrot told him the truth, he wouldn't believe it. Let's go into the city. Maybe we can find some treasures. Yi Qinghan took the lead and stepped into Imperial Abyss City. Once he entered the city, he realized how pale the tip of the iceberg outside was. Imperial Abyss City was well connected. Ancient buildings stood in great numbers. Ancient trees with 10,000 years of life reached into the clouds, obscuring the clouds and moon. It was as if they had their own souls. The branches and leaves swayed with the wind, carrying the Tao of heaven and earth, wanting to soar into the sky. The beautiful Imperial Abyss City was mesmerizing with a single glance. The streets were filled with beautiful women and countless handsome men. Many Tao companions walked side by side. Disciples of ancient aristocratic families could be seen everywhere. Some families could even be traced back to the primordial era. Their foundations and temperaments were completely different. There were many loose cultivators selling medicinal pills and spiritual treasures on both sides of the street. Large amounts of demon cores were placed on the table, and they didn't have to worry about being robbed at all. Countless treasures containing ancient auras were rusty, making it hard to tell whether they were treasures or trash. The parrot's eyes were shining, almost widening. It couldn't help but swallow its saliva. It wanted nothing more than to take away all the treasures it saw. Hey, handsome, how much are these things? The parrot directly rushed to a stall and asked the stall owner. Its eyes were wandering, making it hard to tell what treasures it had taken a fancy to. Yi Qinghan knew that anything that could tempt the parrot was definitely a treasure, so he followed it. The stall owner was an uncle who looked to be 34 years old. He looked very burly, with a stocky build and a strong killing intent. Clearly, he was someone who often killed. Young man, these treasures were all obtained by this seat through life and death experiences. If you like anything, just say it. I don't cheat anyone, and the price is fair. The middle-aged man's voice was vigorous and incomparably deep, giving people a kind of solid feeling. Hey, the real owner is here. Are you looking down on this divine bird? How much is this trash? The parrot had a look of anger. It pointed at a rusty scroll and said loudly. The middle-aged man's face darkened. He said with dissatisfaction, What trash? These things are all treasures I obtained from ancient tombs. Some of them are older than your ancestors and contain the glorious history of the human race. Little thing, don't speak blindly if you don't know anything. Okay. These are treasures. I lack a pillow when I sleep at night. How much is this treasure? I want to buy it and use it as a pillow, the parrot said proudly. Fellow Taoist, is this your pet? The middle-aged man was somewhat angry. He felt that he had been played by the parrot. Since it has taken a fancy to it, I'll have to trouble Senior to give me a price. If it's suitable, I'll buy it. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. This scroll is an ancient object. It's definitely a treasure. Unfortunately, I don't know how to open it. I can't sell it. If fellow Taoist wants to buy it, I'll give you 1,000 top-grade crystals. No bargaining, the middle-aged man said in a serious tone. 1,000? You said that you can't open it, and you're still selling it at such a high price. I just think that it's suitable for a pillow. 100 top-grade crystals. Are you selling it? The parrot was dissatisfied and began to bargain. I can't open it, but it doesn't mean that it's not a treasure. Be sincere. 800 top-grade crystals. If fellow Taoist likes it, you can take it. The middle-aged man was speechless. Yi Qinghan hadn't even said a word, but this lowly bird had begun to nag, which made him upset. 300 top-grade crystals. Are you selling it? If not, I'm leaving. The parrot threatened. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He didn't know whether the parrot had taken a fancy to this treasure or not. 500 crystals. Absolutely not less. If you sincerely want to buy it, then take it. The middle-aged man was also drunk. He was haggling with a parrot. Master, pay the bill. The parrot grabbed the scroll and rolled it away. A golden light flashed and the scroll was put away by it. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He put down the 500 top-grade crystals and walked to the second stall. There were stalls everywhere. All of them were for adventurers who had returned from dangerous places. They had obtained treasures but couldn't use them. They had set up stalls here, hoping to exchange them for things they needed. Yi Qinghan and the others' eyes shone with a golden light. They felt that these things were all good things. They were dazzled. Here are the crystals. Buy whatever you like. Yi Qinghan generously gave more than 10 universe rings to everyone, which were filled with crystals. They had not only slaughtered hundreds of families in Xiaolong region, but also took away their thousands or even tens of thousands of years of savings. Now, they didn't have much, but they had enough crystals. Yi Mingxi and the others also had plenty of crystals. After all, they had cheated more than 10,000 top-grade crystals from Xiahou Chun and the others. With enough crystals, they spread out and began to buy crazily. Everyone was stunned by this group of little guys. They threw out tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of mid-grade crystals without any hesitation. They immediately called out to them, wishing that they could use the best treasures to attract them. The parrot led the way. It didn't show any emotion after it had taken a fancy to a treasure. It made a diversion and lowered the price to the lowest. Everyone was impressed by this parrot that knew how to bargain. Yi Qinghan glanced at countless treasures, trying to find something that he really liked. After all, the things that the parrot took a fancy to were rare and strange. They might not be practical. After a long time, Yi Qinghan stopped at a stall and stared at a jade pendant. There was a lifelike golden dragon mark on it. There was nothing special about it. However, the divine martial emperor code in his sea of consciousness suddenly became restless. It kept flipping the pages, wanting to devour the jade pendant. Chapter 202. The jade pendant looked beautiful and didn't have anything special about it. However, the divine martial imperial code kept flipping until it stopped at the space chapter. The space chapter was filled with space patterns and was difficult to understand. Even after flipping to this part, Yi Qinghan still found it hard to comprehend. His cultivation level was too low. If he read too much, it would affect his soul. Yi Qinghan held the jade pendant and felt a cool sensation spread throughout his body. The golden dragon mark seemed to swim around his palm and returned to the jade pendant. Then, the golden dragon swam around and formed a huge whirlpool in the jade pendant. It directly pulled Yi Qinghan's soul into the jade pendant. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Before he could resist, he entered a separate space. The space was filled with red flowers and green willows. Mountains, rivers, and waterfalls hung from the 9 heavens. The golden dragon flew in the sky and roared continuously. The space law here was abnormally dense. The patterns seemed to be imprinted in his mind. Oh no, I'm still on the street. Yi Qinghan was shocked. If he was enlightened on the street, everyone would know that this jade pendant was a treasure. His soul was highly concentrated. He used the divine martial imperial code to suppress the golden dragon and stop it from tearing his soul. When the golden dragon stopped, Yi Qinghan immediately took out the jade pendant. Seeing the stall owner's bright eyes, he knew that the other party would take the opportunity to increase the price. With a flash of inspiration, he tied the jade pendant on a jade string and hung it around Emperor Ye's neck. He kept looking at it, giving people the impression that he was only interested in this jade pendant to buy an ornament for Emperor Yi. Yes, it's just SOSO. Emperor Yi isn't someone who can be complimented by such an ordinary item. The parrot shook its head. It wasn't clear if it did it on purpose. It pointed at a black lamp and shouted, "Master, this is a treasure. Don't buy that trash jade pendant." Little parrot, don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. The items in my stall are all from ancient tombs. Every item has 1,000 years of history. The stall owner rebuked angrily. Are you kidding me? Profiteer, there are only a few things here that have a history of 1,000 years. The rest are all fakes. Don't think that I can't see through you just because you put some mud on them. The parrot said disdainfully. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked at the stall owner. He had a shifty-eyed appearance and was very young. Yi Qinghan estimated that he was in his 20s. However, he was already a great martial honor. Yi Qinghan could not help but feel astonished. At this moment, the Martial Highness's face was filled with anger as he glared at the parrot, wishing he could slap it to death. Then, he pretended to be angry as he looked at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Fellow Taoist, your pet is spouting nonsense. How am I supposed to do business like this?" In fact, this great martial saint was feeling quite guilty because what the parrot had said was true. Most of the things in the stall were trash, or things that he could not understand. He had bought them from others at a low price, or he had dug up other people's graves and found funerary items, then sold them at a high price. Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist, as a martial honorable, how could you lower yourself to the same level as a parrot? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He took off the jade pendant and casually put it aside. He pretended to be uninterested and turned around to leave. Wait, fellow Taoist, the little girl beside you is so pure. This jade pendant is most suitable for her to wear. It's not expensive either. Buy it, I'll give you a 20% discount. The stall owner immediately became anxious. He had been waiting for such a long time for business, how could he let a lowly bird ruin it? How many spirit crystals is a 20% discount? Don't take this divine bird for a fool. The parrot disdainfully mocked. You lowly bird, will you die if you don't speak? The stall owner was furious. He waved his hand and took out a brick to intimidate the parrot. The parrot trembled all over and quickly closed its mouth. Then, it hid on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled and looked at the brick. It looked very similar to Shi Ji's brick, but it lacked an ancient charm. Fellow Taoist, since you've taken a fancy to this jade pendant, I'll sell it to you at a 20% discount. 8,000 upper-grade spirit crystals. Moreover, you've already touched it, so I can't sell it. You must buy it. The stall owner said in a domineering manner. The surrounding stalls suddenly burst into a discussion. Some of them looked at Yi Qinghan with ridicule. Kai Dafu is forcing people to buy and sell. TSK, this group of people is going to be unlucky. They're going to pay a lot of money. Forget it. Acquaintances know that they can't go to his stall. This young man is acting recklessly. Isn't he looking for someone to blackmail him? The brick gang is not to be trifled with. Look over there, more than 10 people are waiting. If that young man doesn't want to buy it, they'll definitely surround him. Several stall owners whispered for fear of offending Kai Dafu. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked at Kai Dafu. He didn't know what a jade pendant was, but it was already worth 8,000 upper-grade spirit crystals with a 20% discount. If he knew that it was a treasure, wouldn't it be worth 80,000 upper-grade spirit crystals? Fu*K. You're greedier than me. A broken jade pendant actually costs 8,000 upper-grade spirit crystals. Do you think we're idiots? The parrot asked angrily. I'll give you 8 upper-grade spirit crystals. Sell it or not? 8. Do you think I'm a beggar? Also, I told you to shut up. If you dare to say more, I'll beat you to death. Kaidafu threatened. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He could still hear the discussions between the stall owners. This Kaidafu definitely had some accomplices behind him who specialized in extorting outsiders. Whoosh! In an instant, more than 10 great martial venerables appeared. Everyone's cultivation was much stronger than that of an ordinary great martial venerable. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi in the center. Hey boy, you broke the treasure, but you don't want to take responsibility? The strongest leader of the group asked coldly. Fellow cultivators, if you want to sell something, you have to give me a suitable price. Forcing people to buy and sell is unrealistic for me. If you want to fight, I can accompany you to the end. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Oh boy, you're new here, right? You don't know the name of the Brick Gang, right? Another young man sneered. This group of people were all peripheral members of the Brick Gang. They had no source of income and relied on grave robbing and extorting for a living. They were all people who fought without regard for their lives. Yi Qinghan sneered and said domineeringly, I'll give you 10,000 middle-grade jade pendants. If you want to sell it, then sell it. If you don't want to sell it, then get out of my way and let me leave. The price suddenly dropped from 8 high-grade jade pendants to 10,000 middle-grade jade pendants, which was equivalent to 1 high-grade jade pendant. One offered 8,000 while the other offered 1 high-grade jade pendant. It gave the impression that one did not want to sell and the other did not want to buy. If you don't take out 8,000 high-grade jade pendants today, don't even think about leaving here. You broke my treasure, so you have to pay for it. Kaidafu sneered. 1 high-grade jade pendant, I won't give a second price. Yi Qinghan said again. One was more unyielding than the other. Neither side was willing to back down. The leader of the group was the first to release his aura and suppress Yi Qinghan. Some people slowly approached Yi Qinghan, wanting to take them away by force. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan summoned his heavy berserk blade and released a murderous aura. He grabbed Emperor Yi with his other hand and turned around to look at the crowd coldly. His whole body was dark and extremely cold. Thud, thud, thud. The crowd was shocked by Yi Qinghan's cold murderous aura and took a few steps back. Emperor Yi suddenly opened his eyes. His terrifying eyes were like a black hole, bringing with them a destructive aura. Boom! One of the young men was caught off guard and was hit in the chest by the destructive light. A large amount of destructive aura suppressed his vitality and sent him flying dozens of meters away. He fell to the other side of the street and screamed in terror. He wanted to put out the destructive fire, but everywhere he touched burned. Kaidafu was shocked and took a few steps back. He looked at Emperor Ye's eyes in horror and felt like he was being stared at by a supreme evil spirit. Emperor Yi slowly closed his eyes and the destructive aura dispersed. The young man was almost killed by the destructive aura. His face was pale and he was trembling. Can you give me a suitable price now? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Yes. Absolutely 8 pieces of upper grade. It's definitely suitable. I spent 8 pieces of upper grade to buy it from someone else. Kaidafu quickly said without thinking. Yi Qinghan grinned and laughed. He waved his hand and threw 8 pieces of upper grade to the stall. He took the jade pendant and left with Emperor Yi. The dozen or so revered martial artists retreated. They were not afraid of Yi Qinghan, but they were afraid that Emperor Yi would open his eyes. What kind of creature's eyes are those? So terrifying. It makes me feel like I've entered a forbidden area and met an evil spirit. You'll die if you meet an evil spirit. How can you still be standing here? A few stall owners saw Emperor Ye's peripheral vision and were so scared that their bodies turned cold. Go and check the background of these two people. F*ck, we've been scammed by outsiders. Kaidafu seemed to be the leader of these people. He coldly looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Ye's backs and trembled. He was afraid that Emperor Yi would turn around and look at him. Boss. Ha ha ha, forget it. That little girl's eyes are so terrifying. I felt like I was going to die just now. The young man who was attacked by Emperor Yi was trembling and his teeth were chattering. He was obviously frightened. The quarrel here did not affect other people's rush to buy. They wantonly bought treasures. Many rogue cultivators did not bully them because they were children. The prices were set by them from the beginning. They were even a little cheaper. Yi Qinghan did not care about what others were buying. He kept looking at the jade pendant with trembling fingers. Master, what kind of treasure is this? The parrot asked curiously. I don't know. It should be related to space law. I'll go back and study it. Yi Qinghan put away the jade pendant and spread out his divine sense. He could not help but sneer when he knew that Kai Dafu and the others were planning to rob him. An hour later, a group of people gathered in front of a restaurant. The fragrance was so strong that it made people salivate. Let's go and try the delicacies of the imperial domain. Yi Qinghan led a group of people in. There were many people in the restaurant. There were rogue cultivators, powerful hunters, and young masters and young ladies of rich families. They only glanced at Yi Qinghan and the others and did not pay attention to them. A private room cost 100 high-grade crystals. No one would go to a private room if they had nothing better to do. Yi Qinghan also chose to stay in the hall. He found 2 tables close to each other. The group sat down and looked at the prices on the menu. They were speechless. However, they still ordered a table full of delicacies. They were all the most delicious food in the endless universe. They contained a lot of energy and spirit power. They could quickly strengthen one's blood and chi and help one's cultivation. A meal cost 100 high-grade crystals. It was worth it. Everyone in the restaurant was talking. Most of them were about the Golden Age. Yi Qinghan listened carefully. This information was very important. The Golden Age has opened. Many years ago, experts gathered in the imperial domain. I heard that the 9 major forces have started to fight for geniuses. In 2 months, the entire endless universe will be boiling. A young man in embroidered clothes said. His voice was not loud, but everyone in the hall heard him clearly. This sentence ignited the atmosphere in the restaurant. Everyone joined in the discussion loudly. Chapter 203. The Golden Era would always be a hot topic for the youngsters. It would make their blood boil. Countless geniuses would rise and then fall. Only the truly terrifying existences would step on the corpses and advance forward. They would walk to the supreme peak and become the human emperor. They would unify the 8 desolate lands, conquer the forbidden lands, and wipe out the traitors and evil spirits. Yi Qinghan secretly noted the names of these supreme experts. These were the strongest existences of the young generation in the endless cosmos. They even had the bloodline of an ancient true emperor and were peerlessly powerful. Right now, the 9 great powers are trying to attract geniuses. Fake emperors are taking in disciples. Which power do you think these supreme existences will join? It doesn't matter which power they join. The important thing is whether they will accept followers or not. To be a follower of a future quasi-emperor, this is a great honor. These unruly geniuses wanted to become followers of these geniuses. One could see how terrifying their battle prowess was. Yi Qinghan received some news. The group was about to leave after eating and drinking to their heart's content. Suddenly, the heaven and earth rumbled as a golden light pierced through the 8 desolaces. The majestic imperial aura caused everyone's expression to greatly change. Imperial Edict. Imperial Edict, the Golden Era is about to begin. The spatial gates are awakening and geniuses are gathering in the imperial domain. The great clans are recruiting disciples for a period of 10 years. Do not miss this opportunity. 9 huge flags flew across the universe in 9 different directions. On each flag were the words Imperial Edict written in golden light. Majestic voices pierced through the heavens as they kept repeating the words Imperial Edict. The endless universes quickly received the news. Terrifying geniuses crossed the universe and appeared. They stepped toward the region gates that had been sealed for a long time. When the region gates opened, they would head to the Imperial domain. Yi Qinghan's group crazily rushed out and saw a corner of the Imperial Edict. A supreme treasure flashed as they rushed out of the Imperial domain. The 9 great powers sent out 9 powerful quasi-emperors to activate the Grand Formation and jointly issue the Imperial Edict. The endless great cosmos was in an uproar. 9 great quasi-emperors. What kind of power was this? Being able to see even one of them was a supreme honor. If they could be summoned, they would definitely be able to break through their shackles and advance further. There was a big difference between pseudo-emperors and quasi-emperors. True emperors and quasi-emperors were qualitatively different. The world could see quasi-emperors but not quasi-emperors. Everyone knew that quasi-emperors and quasi-emperors were on the same level but not the difference. Yi Qinghan knew that the difference between pseudo-emperors and quasi-emperors was in terms of cultivation. Half-step grand emperors were divided into 9 levels. The first level to the 5th level were pseudo-emperors. Only those above the 5th level were considered true quasi-emperors. Quasi-emperors could instantly kill pseudo-emperors, while true emperors could instantly kill quasi-emperors. This was the difference. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the 9 quasi-emperors in the sky. Their eyes were filled with reverence as they all knelt down. The 9 thearchs did not appear in person. Once the Imperial Edict was issued, the illusory figures dissipated. All the major forces moved out and started to announce their recruitment criteria to attract more geniuses. The 9 great powers were extremely tyrannical and represented the human race. There are countless cultivators, but how many real men can shed their blood on the battlefield and fight against all the geniuses to reach the peak? Only I, the hunter, have hunted down countless geniuses of the demon race, protect the elites of the human race, kill the evil spirits, and kill the traitors. The hunter qualification examination will begin in half a month. Are you all ready to ignite the flames of anger in your hearts and incinerate the endless injustice? Are you all ready to break the shackles of the Grand Tao and achieve eternal glory? The majesty of the divine martial experts was monstrous. Their voices shook the mountains and rivers as they looked down on the heroes of the world. They mobilized their blood energy and infused it with righteousness. In this life, no one didn't want to be a hunter. This organization did not restrict one's identity and allowed one to have a second identity at the same time. No other organization could resist the charm of this power. Therefore, the hunters had been the number 1 power of the human race since the wildland. We are ready. We beg the organization for the examination. We swear that we will fight for a place for the human race in the endless universe. We will fight for the human race until the last drop of blood is shed. We hunters can be found everywhere in the endless universe. As long as the human race needs us, we will die at any time. This was part of the loyalty oath to become a hunter. Countless elites said it in unison. Their voices shook the sky and made their blood boil. They wished they could soar into the sky and die for the human race. Heroes. The human race needed heroes. They were not stupid. No one was willing to die in battle at a young age. However, the human race needed heroes who were not afraid of death. Without these heroes, the entire human race would have been annihilated in history. They were unruly, they were crazy, they looked down on all living beings. They were worthy of respect. Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. Hunter, this was his goal. Gu Qingyu took a deep breath. He held his sword and gazed at the divine martial expert. He was a 5-star existence with great vicissitudes of life. No one knew what he was thinking, but there was no doubt that his goal in this life was to become a 9-star hunter. The human race needs you. Let us hunt for glory in this life. There will come a day when you have the qualifications to stabilize the most powerful force in the wildlands. That is the ancient killing god. The divine martial expert announced the true existence behind the hunters. Ancient killing god. This tyrannical and terrifying name was filled with a murderous aura. It was as if a supreme existence was stepping on countless corpses and bones. He had his back to the common people, fighting for the human race and killing all darkness. The Golden Age had begun. The ancient killing god had decided to tear off the veil and reveal himself. He had appeared at the forefront of the human race. Their reputation as the strongest faction since the savage desolate Aeon was not undeserved. The 9 false emperors were all 7-star hunters, and the 3 quasi-emperors were all 8-star hunters. They had experienced countless tribulations and escaped countless encirclements to reach their current glory. Any one of them could cause the heavens to tremble. Senior, why did you suddenly announce the Golden Age? Could it be that the ancient emperor bloodline is about to completely recover? Someone asked excitedly. That's right. The Golden Age only occurs once every 10,000 years. Every time, the prodigies would come out to fight for the true emperor's throne. Now that it's so peaceful and even the emperor's son hasn't appeared, isn't it too early to announce the Golden Age? There were Battle King-level existences everywhere, but there weren't many youngsters who could sweep through everything and become a resplendent new star that illuminated the imperial domain. There were no signs of a Golden Age at all, yet they suddenly announced the beginning of a Golden Age. It was indeed puzzling. Whether the Golden Age is about to begin or not is not something we can decide. The quasi-emperors naturally have their reasons for joining hands to start the Golden Age. We only need to wait for the good news. There will definitely be someone who will stand out and become a brilliant new star. They will lead the prodigies to trample the stars and revitalize the human race. The divine martial expert said in a deep voice. Others didn't know why the Golden Age was suddenly about to begin, but Yi Qinghan and the others knew. It must be because of the golden bloodline Si Wuxie and Emperor Yi. With these 2 people, it was enough to start the Golden Age. Moreover, there was also the unknown great emperor's Dao fruit. This time, the quasi-emperors didn't announce the list of future human emperors. Therefore, it could be you or them. Therefore, everyone has a chance to stand out and become the future human emperors. The divine martial expert's voice was full of enthusiasm. That's right, the quasi-emperors didn't announce the list of future human emperors. This meant that everyone had a chance. Who wasn't a battle king? Who didn't have a chance? It was all because of the assessment of the major forces. Being able to stand out was the first step to becoming the human emperor. Outside Emperor Abyss City, there was a hubbub of voices. The 9 major forces sat side by side. Only the ancient massacre god was talking. Everyone was waiting. The ancient massacre god was the number 1 force, and no one could be compared to them. They also couldn't compete for the young talents. In fact, some forces even secretly curried favor with the upper echelons of the ancient massacre god in order to recruit the best disciples. The ancient massacre god was in the center, surrounded by 8 major forces. They were the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty, Zhan Family's Dao Realm, Xianyuan Dao Realm, Eternal Cloud Holy Ground, Heavenly Palace's Divine Martial Family, Heavenly Devil Palace, Heaven's Secret Sect, and Divine Physique Bloodline Holy Ground. On the surface, these 8 forces weren't as strong as the ancient massacre god. However, if they were to compare, none of them were pushovers. Especially the Divine Physique Bloodline Holy Ground. This was a freak organization. All the experts with special physiques and high-grade bloodlines gathered together to form a huge alliance. Apart from the younger generation, the weakest among them was at the Divine Martial Realm. When they attacked, they would definitely trigger a heaven-shaking phenomenon. The reason why these special physiques formed this alliance was to protect themselves. Their bloodlines were extremely high grade, and countless existences drooled over them. They wanted to steal their source. Therefore, all the special physiques and high-grade bloodlines that had matured would join this alliance to protect the monstrous geniuses that hadn't matured yet. The princes and princesses had all cultivated in this holy ground. There were some special humans whose bloodlines were even more high-grade. They weren't all humans, but they weren't accepted by the myriad races. They could only rely on the human race. They were all in this divine physique bloodline holy ground. They were a group of their own that didn't fit in with the other forces. For example, the Jean family's Tao realm might seem a little weak. However, if their bloodline reached ancestral awakening, then all special physiques would have to stand aside. However, this type of physique was too rare. It was even rarer than the Zither immortal crimson demon physique. There was only one such person in all of history. Therefore, everyone had forgotten about this special physique. However, their bloodline was still the royal bloodline of the human race. No one dared to blaspheme it. To be able to become one of the 9 great forces, none of them were weak. It was just a matter of time before their bloodline reached ancestral awakening. Once it reached ancestral awakening, they would definitely soar to the heavens and become a true great emperor. Moreover, the true great emperor bloodline clans of the human race hadn't appeared yet. This was because they didn't need to accept disciples. They only needed to nurture their own bloodline. They believed that their own bloodline was the highest grade. However, their bloodline was indeed terrifying. How could an emperor bloodline be weak? At this moment, they were all quietly watching, waiting for the true peerless geniuses to appear. Once they appeared, they would all attack to snatch them. Yi Qinghan didn't understand these clans and powerful forces, but he was still very confident in the ancient killing god behind this hunter. After all, their oath had made his blood boil. True elites of the hunters rarely betrayed them. Moreover, they had Emperor Killer behind them. Therefore, he didn't want to show off his strength. He also didn't want his disciples to be snatched by others. If someone had evil intentions and destroyed the golden bloodline, it would definitely be a great tragedy for the human race. Therefore, Yi Qinghan slowly led his disciples away from Emperor Abyss City. He prepared to return to his palace to cultivate for half a month and wait patiently for the hunter test. Chapter 204. It has already been 10 days since the imperial edict was issued. The Emperor Abyss City was now filled with people. Countless elites came through the space gates and arrived here. Most of them were war kings of their respective regions. The universe was boundless. It was unknown how many star regions there were and how many races there were. There were some weaker races that depended on the human race to survive, and the geniuses they nurtured were not to be underestimated. Whoosh! With a flash of golden light, a young man walked on the wind. His green robe fluttered in the wind, and he looked extremely confident. His vigorous chi suppressed everyone. With a wave of his hand, he caused the laws to shake and the great Tao to submit. His eyes were filled with disdain as he looked down on everyone. Even the cultivators of the divine martial realm felt pressured when they looked at him. It's Lin Aoqiong. His speed is unparalleled in both ancient and modern times, far surpassing the other princes. He is known as one of the future emperors of the human race, a peerless genius. The first emperor-level existence has appeared. Everyone discussed in low voices. Even the battle kings of a region looked at him with reverence in their eyes. This kind of person was born to prove his Tao. When will the hunter assessment begin? Lin Aoqiong's eyes were like stars. He didn't pay attention to the others. He looked at the ancient godly massacre god, and said in a powerful voice, "Ha ha ha, so it's fellow Taoist Lin. There are only 5 days left before it opens. Could it be that fellow Taoist wants to join the ranks of the hunters?" The divine martial expert was overjoyed. The younger generation of emperor-level cultivators disdained to join large organizations. They all fought their own battles. One person could stop 10,000 heroes, so why would they need a background to support them? Lin Aoqiong nodded. In this golden age, the more resources one had, the more confidence one would have in achieving Tao attainment. Fellow Taoist Lin, are you interested in joining the Divine Body Bloodline Sacred Land? Grand Venerable Wu asked Lin Aoqiong. My clan's boundary emperor is about to come out of seclusion to accept a disciple. Why don't you give it a try, fellow Taoist Lin? Who knows, you might be able to receive some pointers. The Zhan clan's Zhan Tianyun extended an olive branch, hoping to obtain this genius. Lin Aoqiong's talent was evident from the fact that the 8 major forces had extended an olive branch to him. At the very least, he could become a fake emperor. Fake emperors were still emperors. Which one of them wasn't a peerless talent? If any faction had a false emperor, they would be able to maintain their glory for thousands of years. A person of this level was worthy of the 9 factions fighting for. Lin Aoqiong was cold and aloof. In this life, he was here to prove his Tao. How could he ask for guidance from others? Thank you for looking up to me, but I have no intention of joining the organization for the time being. I just want to get the title of a hunter. After Lin Aoqiong finished speaking, he turned around and left. He seemed to be moving very slowly, but he suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. The space around him did not fluctuate at all. Therefore, he had left using his speed and not the space laws. Many geniuses were excited. This kind of genius was an existence that could truly step onto the path of Tao validation. Many people's Tao hearts were directly crushed by this kind of existence. They couldn't accept that an existence at the same level could be so terrifying. How can there be such a powerful, great, revered martial artist? Unbelievable! Such an existence should have comprehended quite a few grand Tao laws, right? I've heard that Lin Aoqiong has already started to practice his lesser mystique. Sigh, it's so frustrating to compare oneself to others. Come to think of it, all of us are warlords, but compared to Lin Aoqiong, we're not even worthy to carry his shoes. Divine powers and secret skills were top-notch secret skills created by the Great Way Principle and Origin. They were collectively called divine powers. There were great divine powers and small divine powers and secret skills. They were extremely overbearing and had unparalleled attack. Once a person comprehended a divine powers and secret skills, even if it was a small divine powers, he would be able to look down on his peers. It was almost impossible for a great martial honored realm cultivator to comprehend such a secret skill, except for a few imperial princes and princesses with imperial bloodlines, or people with imperial bloodlines like the Golden Bloodline, who were born emperors and had inherited memories. When they reached the Tao Master Realm, they would be able to fight across realms. Yi Qinghan did not know that Lin Aoqiong had appeared and was going to participate in the assessment. His arrival meant that the difficulty of the assessment had increased by several times. This was because Lin Aoqiong's participation in the assessment would attract countless experts of the same level to participate in the assessment. The number of hunters was limited. Although the number of people participating in the assessment had increased, the number of spots remained the same. The competition would definitely be extremely bloody. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had already entered a state of cultivation. He had been diligently practicing the law of gravity for 10 days. Even someone as gifted as Huang Xiaohu had only reached the peak of the minor completion in the law of gravity. However, Yi Qinghan had reached this level with just his mortal body. On this day, Yi Qinghan took out the jade pendant. The divine martial imperial code became restless again and flipped pages continuously. The sea of sufferings surged with monstrous waves and chaos poured out. It was as if the universe was being born. Countless stars exploded and turned into fireworks. The law of space was dry and boring. It was filled with veins and incomprehensible runes. An ordinary soul spirit would be injured just by looking at the runes. However, Yi Qinghan was absorbing it like a thirst. He used his soul spirit to touch the veins and incomprehensible runes. Strands of divine power were vast and mighty. His soul spirit was exhausted and he wanted to fall asleep. However, the more he looked at it, the clearer the space became. Space was eternal and also opposite. When one's understanding of the law of space reached the peak, legend had it that one could travel to the ancient, immemorial, and even the desolate era. One could also travel to the future era. However, there had never been anyone at this level. Even if a true great emperor were to descend, he would not be able to travel through the endless space and enter another era, let alone return to the desolate era. Yi Qinghan's consciousness was once again dragged into the space by the golden dragon. The space here was abnormally clear and was completely folded. However, consciousness could not penetrate it. If one could penetrate the space, they would be able to use the law of space to travel from one point to another in an instant. Those who could use the law of space to teleport were all almighties who had a terrifying understanding of the law of space. Wherever their consciousness passed, they would be able to reach in an instant. At this stage, distance was no longer a problem. The problem was how strong one's consciousness was. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. This kind of alternate space was definitely a treasure for cultivating the law of space. Until now, he had never heard of a place where the space was folded so clearly. His soul spirit evolved into a small person that was just like a real person. He reached out his hand to touch the space barrier. The barrier was useless against physical objects. However, the consciousness could not penetrate it. It was like a wall that blocked the path of the consciousness. How to use the consciousness to penetrate the space barrier had become the most important thing at this moment. Yi Qinghan had completely given up on defense. He wholeheartedly immersed his soul spirit into this space to comprehend and use the law of space. The runes of the divine martial imperial codex released a powerful wave and instantly caused Yi Qinghan to vomit blood. His soul spirit was dispirited and was pushed out of the jade pendant by the law of space. The jade pendant became dull and lifeless as though it was about to dissipate. Yi Qinghan frowned and did not dare to test it again. If such a treasure disappeared for no reason, it would be a waste. Some treasures were not one-time consumables, but they could not be used infinitely either. Such treasures might be consumables that could support the soul spirit of an expert to enter a few times. However, they would dissipate after a few times. Yi Qinghan thought to himself and decided to temporarily give up on comprehending the law of space. He would wait until his soul spirit entered the immortal realm before trying again. That's not right. This jade pendant has vitality. Every time I enter, it will consume a portion of its vitality. Now that I have entered it for the second time, it has become dull and on the verge of shattering. If I use the water origin to nourish it, I might be able to use it infinitely. Yi Qinghan's brows twitched. The water origin was the source of life. As long as something had vitality, it could nourish it. The water origin appear. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and used the ultimacy to transfer the water origin around him. It transformed into a tiny heavenly dragon that circled around the jade pendant. It formed a yin-yang diagram with the golden dragon and spun continuously. The jade pendant shone brightly and the water origin was forcefully sucked into the space. It intertwined with the golden heavenly dragon and the yin-yang diagram became clearer. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and looked at the golden heavenly dragon. His eyes shone brightly and he was instantly excited. This is the metal origin. If I can comprehend the metal origin's ultimacy, not only will I be able to attack, I will also be able to obtain the metal origin Tao body. Yi Qinghan's palms were sweating. In his previous life, His cultivation was powerful, and he had read an article about the origin Dao body in the Imperial God Martial Arts Codex. It described how to create a divine body. With the metal origin Dao body as the foundation, one's physical body could be molded into an indestructible divine body. Then, one could forcefully plunder the wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, and other origins into the body to create the 9 transformation Dao body. With the 9 transformation Dao body as the foundation, one could turn the physical body into the most terrifying divine body. Then, one could forcefully absorb the chaos of the great Dao and cultivate for countless years to refine the physical body into the 9 transformation Dao body. This kind of body was enough to be the best in history, and was not inferior to the golden bloodline or the war race battle physique. If one could plunder the origin bloodline of countless elite special Dao bodies, one's physical body would become stronger with every bloodline origin of the Dao body. With the physical body, one would be immortal and their physical body indestructible. Their soul would be hidden in their physical body, and they would be in the world for eternity. The metal origin is the rarest origin in the world. It is actually sealed in the jade pendant. Yi Qinghan was shocked. The origin was indeed the origin. It was not like the profound meanings that could be comprehended. It was real, just like a physical object. Perhaps one could be born every 10,000 years. This jade pendant actually contained so much metal origin. It was enough for him to create the metal origin Dao body. It was a pity that he could not forcefully devour the metal origin now. Otherwise, if the jade pendant were to shatter, it would be almost impossible to find another place with spatial folds. The mortal body has always been a barrier for me to break through the shackles of the great Tao. Once I have the metal origin Tao body, I will definitely be able to achieve the 9 transformation divine body. Then, I will create the 9 transformation Tao body. Finally, I will use my physical body to prove my Tao. Yi Qinghan slowly stood up. With a wave of his hand, the jade pendant was stored in a separate interspatial ring. His aura became overbearing, as if an emperor had descended. Master, come out quickly. The assessment is tomorrow. You must not miss it, Stan Wuxia shouted. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. He pushed open the door and walked out. His appearance was dignified. His temperament had undergone an earth-shattering change. His bones were filled with confidence. Brother Yi, did you achieve any results from your closed-door training? Muyo Tianqian appeared, smiling as he looked at Yi Qinghan. I can't say that I achieved any results, but I discovered a lot. Tianqian is so confident. How confident are you in passing the hunter assessment? Yi Qinghan indifferently asked. Muyo Tianqian was invincible among his peers. In addition, he had a 1-page scripture and was a great revered martial artist. At this moment, his combat strength was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan's. If his luck was good, the hunter assessment would be very easy. However, Yi Qinghan had some doubts. Could this extremely unlucky guy really pass the assessment? If he encountered an emperor-level existence in his first battle, that would be depressing. This, cough cough, I won't say it. My luck is very bad. Good things don't come true, but bad things do. Muyo Tianqian shook his head. The two of them brought Stan Wuxia to the main hall. They found that everyone was here, discussing tomorrow's hunter assessment. Chapter 205. Countless geniuses appeared in the ancient killing gods' territory. Each of them had a powerful aura, and their battle intent was monstrous. Those who didn't have a strong Tao heart couldn't bear it at all when they met someone who was much more terrifying than them. They were like flowers in a greenhouse, unable to withstand a single blow. Yi Qinghan and the others sped towards the hunter hall. It was rare to see a group with uneven cultivation. Some of them were still at the Fate Palace realm, but there was a little guy who was already a hunter. Such a group attracted the attention of everyone, and there was a lot of discussion. Which hidden family are these little guys from? There's actually a hunter. He's only 12 or 13 years old, right? Is he an emperor? Many people stared at Si Wuxia. He had a head of golden hair and eyes that were as vast and powerful as the sun. It was obvious that he wasn't a simple character. Ha ha ha, there's also a mortal little guy. This is a strange group. The highest cultivation is only a great martial venerable. They must be here to make up the numbers. Someone laughed and ridiculed, but there wasn't much malice. Yi Qinghan and the others didn't care and just moved forward. Have you found out what the main assessment is? Will we need to go to dangerous places to kill ferocious beasts? Tens of thousands of elites die in the hunter assessment. If you're afraid of death, don't participate in the hunter assessment. Such conversations were endless. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't expect the assessment to be so dangerous. It was fine for him to take the risk, but these disciples were still young. Although their talent wasn't very good, their willpower was extremely strong, especially those who were at the 9th level. After hundreds of years of bitter cultivation, it was possible for them to enter the divine martial realm in the future. It was definitely not a wise choice to let them take the risk. Moreover, Taiwa could deal with dead spirits, but it didn't mean that he could deal with ferocious beasts. It was definitely a mistake to bring this group of juniors to participate in a life-and-death experience. Nangong Qinyue Chenxue, stay here with the juniors later. You're not allowed to participate in the assessment. Among the younger generation, only Ren Huang Yi can participate in this assessment. Yi Qinghan's tone was firm, revealing an irrefutable will. Why? My realm is much higher than hers. Nangong Qinyue was dissatisfied and glared at Yi Qinghan. A high cultivation level doesn't mean a high combat power. Didn't you hear that? Countless battle kings have died in one region. If you go, you'll just be throwing your lives away. Muyo Tianxin's aura turned cold, but the worry in his eyes was clear. He clearly didn't want Nangong Qinyue to be in danger. He then looked at Nangong Xiaobei and said, Xiaobei, don't participate in the exam either. Wait for the next opportunity. No. Even Shi Gu and Brother Feng can participate. I'm not a little girl. Why can't I participate? Nangong Xiaobei retorted. Muyu Tianxin was silent. Nangong Qinyue and Nangong Xiaobei had grown up with him, and he treated them like little brothers and sisters. He always felt that they wouldn't grow up, so he wanted to take care of them. He didn't want them to be involved in danger. The exam this time was extremely dangerous. It was normal for a battle king to die. Let's take a look at the situation first. We'll talk about it after we get the specific test items. Yi Qinghan looked at Nangong Xiaobei. In terms of aptitude, he was very good, but he lacked life and death experiences. He couldn't increase his combat power. There were also benefits in participating in the exam, but the chances of death were very high. The hunter headquarters was the outer force of the ancient killing god. It was majestic and filled with the pressure of the great Tao. Strands of emperors might rushed into the clouds along with the emperor array, suppressing the great Tao laws. The spirit qi here was extremely dense, comparable to a paradise. If one cultivated here, they would be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Stone tablets stood in great numbers like a tomb. They were all engraved with names. They were the names of the hunters who had sacrificed themselves for the human race. The dignified aura was incomparably solemn, making people feel reverence. The names engraved here were all ancestors. They had used their blood to create the glory of the human race. Even if the crown prince personally came, he couldn't blaspheme them. Otherwise, he would be mercilessly suppressed. Everyone respectfully bowed and recited the hunter oath in their hearts. Their eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit and a strong sense of glory as they walked into the martial stage of the hunter headquarters. In the center of the martial stage sat a dignified old man. He looked like a mortal. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his exuberant blood vitality bore witness to the glory of a hero past his prime. Fake Emperor! Even though he was only a first-layer half-step great emperor, he had still stepped over countless corpses. His body was covered with wounds that couldn't be healed. The scars on his body were shocking. 8 divine martial powerhouses stood in front of him. 100 3-star hunters in killing robes stood in front of him. Their majesty was overwhelming, attracting the awe and yearning of countless people. If one could reach their level in life, they wouldn't have lived in vain. The martial stage was vast and boundless, could hold at least 1 million people. And at this moment, just on the first day of the exam, more than 100,000 elites had arrived. After tomorrow, there would be even more. It was estimated that the number of people participating in the hunter exam would not be less than 1 million. However, the number of people who could become hunters was at most 2,000. Most of these 2,000 people were occupied by the disciples of the super-aristocratic families. There was no other way. They were strong, had a strong foundation, and could become a disciple of an aristocratic family. Which one of them didn't have a strong destiny? Everyone, please be patient. Listen carefully to the objectives of this exam. A young 4-star hunter stood up and looked down at the crowd. His black hair danced in the wind, and no one dared to resist. To become a 4-star hunter at such a young age, he was definitely a terrifying existence. He might not be any worse than the chief disciple of an ancient aristocratic family. Yi Qinghan stared at the 4-star hunter and listened carefully. The experience of a senior was precious. It could even save one's life sometimes. The first level of the assessment is to enter the danger zone for a month. You have to kill ominous beasts and seize precious medicines. The standard of measurement is contribution points. If you want to enter the second level, then your contribution points must reach the top 100 today. The rest will be eliminated. There is no room for improvement. Before entering the danger zone, you will get a life card. It will be engraved with your name, identity, and cultivation. It has a built-in space. Every time you kill an ominous beast or obtain a precious medicine, take out the demon core and put it into the life card. The life card will automatically determine your contribution points according to the level of the beast and the medicine. It will record your data. Your data will be reflected on the stone tablet in front of you through a special method. Only the top 100 will be selected. You can't kill your own kind. Whoever dares to break the rules will be killed without mercy. This is the rule. Escape skills in the danger zone. If you are not an opponent, then immediately seek help from your own kind if the situation permit. If you feel that you are not an opponent of your own kind, then don't go near them. Instead, choose to find the 3-star hunters who entered the danger zone with you. They will protect you. If you don't have the opportunity to find them, then it will be your end. The rest is a piece of advice for you. The reason it's called a land of peril is because it's truly a land of peril. The mortality rate is extremely high. A battle king of a realm might be amazing in your star field, but I want to tell you that it's nothing special. When I was your age, I could crush 10 opponents like you with one hand. But when I participated in the assessment, I almost died. This is how dangerous the danger zone is. The reason why I am telling you this is to tell you that a hunter does not need a coward. If you want to become a hunter, then you need not only courage, but also strength and luck. So, think carefully before you decide whether to participate in the assessment or not. If you shrink back now, you are not necessarily a coward. You should judge the situation and find a suitable time to go. If you know that you will die but still choose to enter the danger zone, then I can only say that you are stupid, not worthy of respect. Finally, I want to remind you that if your cultivation is not at the peak of the Tao Master level, no matter whether you are a battle king or not, you better not participate in the assessment. Otherwise, you will die. The 4-star hunter looked down at the heroes in an overbearing manner. His words were merciless. However, few people dared to refute him because he was really strong. Even a peak of the Tao master level could not participate in the assessment. How strong the danger in the danger zone was explained in one sentence. Peak of the Tao master level. According to this calculation, Yi Qinghan and the others could not participate in the assessment. Only Gu Qingyu, Mu Yu, Tianchen, Shige, and Feng Wuxie could participate. However, people like Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi could not be judged by common sense. Now, if you want to participate in the assessment, stay in the square and sign up to receive your life card. If you don't want to participate, immediately leave the square. Nangong Xiaobei was proud. He was also at the peak of the Tao master level. Moreover, he had a supreme treasure that even Mu Yu did not know about. It was the Tiangang God Thunder. There was only one of it, but it could instantly kill an existence of the immortal gate level. Yi Qinghan saw that Nangong Xiaobei was determined and did not force him. He nodded and allowed Nangong Xiaobei to participate in the assessment. However, Nangong Qingyue and the others did not have a chance. Gu Qingyu insisted on taking Lin Wutian. Yi Qinghan did not stop him. Lin Wutian was different from others. What he lacked now was life and death experience. In the future, his achievements would not lose to anyone. 1,000 three-star hunters walked out of the hunter headquarters. Each of them held 100 life cards in their hands. They sat in front of the chairs and began to carve life cards for the participants. Yi Qinghan and the others quickly got their life cards and waited for the danger zone to open. A terrifying battle would kill tens of thousands of experts. The death rate was absolutely frightening. After an hour, all the 100,000 participants got their life card. The 4-star hunters retreated behind the fake emperor and respectfully asked for instructions. "Sir, everything is ready. Please open the danger zone." "Good. Very good. Heavenly Palace God, I am very satisfied with your performance in your first assessment. This is also your opportunity to be promoted to a 5-star hunter. You will lead the team. I hope that the death rate will be lowered. After all, they are all elites. They are worth training." The fake emperor said in a deep voice. Heavenly Palace God had the royal bloodline of the human race. His ancestor was the Heavenly Palace Great Emperor. He once killed his way into the forbidden area alone and killed 4 traitors. All the experts in the forbidden area were shocked. Heavenly Palace God, as his descendant, had a noble bloodline. His future was limitless. Heavenly Palace God smiled when he heard the half-step Great Emperor's praise. However, he was still very excited when he heard that he could lead the team into the danger zone. This meant that the ancient killing god had begun to test him. If he could be promoted to a 5-star hunter and become a true killing god, he would have the opportunity to become a supreme great emperor and display the glory of his ancestor. Chapter 206. The fake emperor tore through the void, and a path of nothingness seemed to pass through time and space. Ripples appeared in front of him, and at the end of the path was a barren ancient world. Ferocious beasts were everywhere, and they were extremely powerful. Ferocious birds swooped down, and the beasts at the Tao Master level were torn apart without any resistance. This was really a dangerous place. It was vast and boundless. Even if 100,000 people entered, it would be like a grain of sand in the ocean. They would not be able to cause any wave. The space is folded. Even if you enter from the same place, you will be sent to different places. Therefore, candidates who have formed teams, I suggest that you hold hands and try not to be separated, Heavenly Palace God reminded them in a low voice. Everyone looked at each other and began to contact their own teams or acquaintances. Whoosh! A golden light flashed. Lin Aoqiong touched the void and floated over. He bowed slightly to the fake emperor and said to Heavenly Palace God, "Brother Heavenly Palace, please give me a life token." Heavenly Palace God was stunned. He did not expect this genius to participate in the assessment. However, he was delighted. With Lin Aoqiong around, at least there would not be any major problems if they worked together. The assessment would be successful, and he would have a greater chance of reaching the 5-star level. A life token was soon completed, and everyone rushed toward the entrance. Heavenly Palace God had been watching the crowd. He noticed that Yi Qinghan's team had 2 Fate Palace Realm Kid. He could not help but frown. He stepped forward and asked in a low voice, "Who is the leader?" Yi Qinghan looked up at Heavenly Palace God. He was young, but he had already reached the middle level of the Celestial Gate. He saluted with his fists and replied, "I am the leader. Beginner Tao Master and 2 Fate Palace Realm Warriors. You will die if you go in like this. There are 8 of you, and only the 2 of you are qualified to participate in the assessment. Whether you can come back alive is still uncertain. I advise you to leave immediately," Heavenly Palace God reminded them kindly. "Thank you for your reminder. We are determined to participate in this assessment, and we are confident that we can come back alive," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The corner of Tiangong Shen's eyes twitched as he stared at Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and Lin Wutian. He realized that something was wrong. Lin Wutian looked like a sword standing there, motionless and calm. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, was scanning with his eyes closed. He could not find her at all. Yi Qinghan gave him an indescribable feeling. Could it be that I have misjudged them? Heaven Palace God muttered to himself. He was now more interested in this team and did not try to stop them. But Heavenly Palace God and Lin Aoqiong Wutian, but when he saw Emperor Yi of him and Emperor Yi, Yi Qinghan didn't care about the strange gazes from the outside world and walked hand in hand with the crowd. Whoosh! As soon as they entered the entrance, the Milky Way reversed and the stars moved. The pattern of the law of space was reflected in Yi Qinghan's eyes. The jade pendant in the interspatial ring reacted violently. The golden dragon and the water dragon intertwined. The jade pendant penetrated the ring and entered Yi Qinghan's mind. It spun continuously and the law of space evolved automatically. Boom! The 8 of them entered the ancient world. The gravity here was surprisingly strong. Mu Yu Tianchen and Gu Qingyu, who were great martial venerables, could not fly. They fell directly to the ground. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He grabbed Emperor Yi and slashed down with his heavy frenzied saber. The earth rumbled and the mountains cracked. They took advantage of the force to land and rolled continuously. They were in a mess. Roar! As soon as the 8 of them landed, an ancient beast opened its bloody mouth and rushed toward them. Its mouth was full of gloomy fangs, and the stench of blood was nauseating. Gu Qingyu pulled out his sword and turned it into a long rainbow. He and his sword became one and pierced through the beast's mouth. The cold sword chi shattered the beast's vitality, and the sword pierced through its body. In the blink of an eye, a powerful level 5 ominous beast at the level of Tao Master was killed. The sword light flickered, and the demon core appeared in his hand. He put it into his life token. The life token automatically counted the demon core. A rank 5 lower demon core could only be counted as a contribution point. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked at the ancient world. He found that there were mountains everywhere. They were majestic, and the vicissitudes of time covered the sky and earth. The rolling pressure made people feel awe. This was the world of ferocious beasts. There were ferocious beasts everywhere. They had no intelligence, only greed and bloodthirstiness. Their eyes were red. The birds in the sky were especially powerful. Their sharp claws could almost tear apart mountains and rocks. They could even uproot ancient trees. The jade pendant in Yi Qinghan's mind exploded at the critical moment. He could not cultivate in peace. I have a situation. I need to cultivate in seclusion for some time. The 6 of you should not go too far. It is too dangerous here. Help me at any time if you are close, Yi Qinghan said. He brought Emperor Yi and rushed toward a mountain. They dodged a few terrifying ferocious beasts and entered a narrow cave. He said to Emperor Yi, "My son, protect me. This time, I will try to comprehend the profound meaning of the space law." Yi Qinghan set up an array at the entrance of the cave. He covered his breath and sat cross-legged on the ground, wholeheartedly trying to comprehend the law in the jade pendant. The law was rich and profound meaning appeared. Together with the runes of the space chapter of the divine martial imperial code, Yi Qinghan's face turned red. He gritted his teeth and endured the pressure of the divine martial imperial code and the damage that the runes brought to his soul. He tried his best to absorb the profound meaning. His divine senses finally found the substance of space. Through the spatial patterns, he could sense another point in space through the folding method. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. This folding method made space not a flat surface, but a three-dimensional ball. He could go from one point to another in the shortest distance possible through the internal space. 2 points were folded directly, ignoring the distance. No matter how fast one's speed was, it could not be so terrifying. Of course, this was only in the case of long distances. In short distances, speed was still the key. There was no need to waste his mental strength to use the space law. Go! Yi Qinghan flicked his finger. A wisp of energy passed through the array at the entrance of the cave. However, it did not activate the array. It went through another space. If it attacked someone, it would be impossible to guard against. He had taken the first step. Now, he had to practice diligently to reach the point where he could use the least amount of mental strength to sense the space node from an extremely long distance. When the space law reached the small success stage, one could instantly travel through a region. When it reached the large success stage, it would not be a problem to travel through the entire universe. If he reached the great perfection stage in theory, he would be able to travel through the future and the past. He could even allow Yi Qinghan to reverse the situation of Owl Warstar. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He had only sensed a few meters in front of him when his mental strength was completely depleted. His face was pale. With his current strength, the space law did not have much practical use. After resting for an hour, Yi Qinghan's tiredness gradually disappeared. He entered the jade pendant to cultivate. The space here was folded clearly. Under the guidance of his mental strength, his divine sense slowly passed through the space barrier. The more he practiced, the more barriers he could pass through. It was unknown how long Yi Qinghan had been cultivating for. The outside world was plunged into darkness. The entire ancient world was in a frenzy. A murderous aura filled the air. Countless heroes trembled under the pressure. Even existences like Lin Aoqiong were tense. As for the others, their faces were pale and they were extremely nervous. Gu Qingyu and the others gathered together and chose a mountain range to defend. There were too many ferocious beasts, too many to count. They began to pounce on the human experts. Battle kings fell one after another. Their roars shook the ancient world. The birds let out mournful cries. More and more ferocious beasts appeared, causing the experts to panic. Hundreds of 3-star hunters did not participate in the battle. They just watched indifferently. However, whenever a ferocious beast approached them, they would all be killed in an instant. The ancient world at night was a truly dangerous place. In order to survive, the experts of the human race banded together and formed battle teams. The heavenly palace god stood on the highest mountain peak. His clothes fluttered in the wind. He overlooked the endless ancient world. His divine sense spread out and found Gu Qingyu and the others. He found that Gu Qingyu was indeed a genius. His willpower was superb. Even in this situation of certain death, he did not panic. He had been fighting alongside several experts. His body was covered in injuries, but his improvement was quite fast. Where is the leader and the little girl? The heavenly palace god was surprised. This area of tens of thousands of miles was under his control, but he did not find Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Roar. The ferocious beasts rioted. The humans had joined forces, so they also began to fight together. Hundreds of ferocious beasts surrounded several human experts. In an instant, someone was torn apart alive. Blood splattered across the ground, dyeing the ancient mountain range red. Screech. A terrifying goshawk spread its wings, covering the sky and the sun. Its sharp claws shattered the void. It grabbed a great martial venerable expert and directly broke through his defense. It stabbed into his internal organs and tore his body apart. It swallowed all of his blood and qi. The large amount of vitality made it even more excited. The young experts of the human race were furious. They could not fly, so they could only passively defend against the ferocious beast. Divine weapons could not break through their defense. There were countless casualties. Whoosh! Finally, someone from the human race exploded. Lin Aoqiong soared into the sky. His sword light pierced through the clouds. With a stroke of his sword, all the ferocious beasts within 100 miles were killed. His figure turned, and the sword light flashed again. The demonic cores were taken away, and the corpses fell from the sky. Blood stained the sky. Whoosh! 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 A few experts of the human race rushed out to counterattack the ferocious beast. Their combat power was unparalleled. At the same level, they could kill their opponents in seconds. A large number of ferocious beasts began to rush toward the terrifying experts of the human race. Gu Qingyu, Mu Yu Tianchen, and the others were also attacked mercilessly. The golden brick smashed one ferocious beast after another. However, the opponent was endless. They could completely crush them with their numbers. The blood stimulated the ferocious beast. The ferocious beasts that died tragically were devoured by their own kind. All kinds of unknown ferocious beasts appeared in the world. With a roar, all the beasts submitted, and the forest trembled. A page of the scripture was taken out, and the great Tao of the law filled the valley. In an instant, dozens of ferocious low-level ferocious beasts were killed. Mu Yu Tianchen's true origin was quickly consumed. He could not replenish it, and his combat power became weaker and weaker. Gu Qingyu's sword was like a rainbow, constantly killing the ferocious beasts. Shi Gu took out a large brick to block the sky, preventing the ferocious beasts from attacking. The 6 of them were dyed red by their own blood and the ferocious beast. The aura of death descended, and they could only vent the fear in their hearts by roaring. Chapter 207. The ancient space at night was a dangerous place that made people despair. Even the great revered martial artists were roaring as they bathed in the river of blood. The experts hiding in the cave saw the human warriors bathing in the river of blood and felt their blood boil. They rushed out of the safe place to kill the beast. More than 100,000 warriors fell very quickly. Tian Gongshan frowned. This experience seemed to be much more dangerous than the previous ones. Tonight's situation was too special. This ancient space originally did not have so many ferocious beasts, let alone level 6 ferocious beasts of the Immortal Gate realm. However, the endless stream of ferocious beasts had caught everyone off guard. In the end, a level 6 ferocious beast of the Immortal Gate realm had appeared. All 3-star hunters attack. Tian Gongshan used the profound laws and roared. His voice penetrated the space and resounded through the clouds. Kill! This group of 3-star hunters was at the early stage of the Immortal Gate. They had only come to maintain order, but they had to participate in the battle. Once hundreds of Immortal Gate experts entered the battlefield, a sea of blood gushed out of the ancient space. Countless beasts died. The warriors were excited and their fighting spirit was high. Lin Aoqiong could block 10,000 beasts with one sword. The beasts in the sky were all his target. Even if they were 100 miles away, they would be killed in an instant. This was the battle strength of the Imperial Prince. He did not panic in the face of danger. His attacks were elegant, fast, accurate, and ruthless, far surpassing those of the same level. The earth could not restrain him, nor could the space. His points far exceeded the others. After fighting for 4 hours, he had obtained more than 5,000 points. He was 3,000 points ahead of the second place. At this moment, Lin Aoqiong's realm was suppressed to the great revered martial artist realm. If he released his initial immortal gate realm, his battle strength would be even more ferocious. Gu Qingyu obtained 500 points. Muyu Tianqian obtained 520 points. The others could only passively defend. For now, they only had 10 points at most. Feng Wuxie's wind element was fierce. It formed a hurricane that crushed the mountain and tore the beasts' corpses into pieces. The smell of blood was very strong. It was nauseating, and no one wanted to fight. Nangong Xiaobei had never seen such a bloody scene. His face was pale. He could protect himself, but it was very difficult to obtain points. Boom! The mountain behind them was shattered by a huge beast. There was nothing to rely on. The 6 of them were surrounded and the situation was very dangerous. Kill! 1. The 6 of them used all their trump cards. The golden brick, the 1-page scripture, and the rank 6 sword were all used to defend the sky. Boom! An unmatched 6th rank vicious beast slaughtered its way over, brandishing its heaven-covering palm to smash apart the void, smashing into the golden brick. The golden brick erupted with terrifying radiance, illuminating half of the void. Shiji's soul suffered heavy injuries, but his flesh was blocked by the immortal sect Dao robes, otherwise, he would have died on the spot. Puff! Shiji's spirit was dispirited, and he no longer had the strength to fight. At this moment, he could no longer defend and could only take back the golden brick to protect himself. The rank 6 ferocious beast was sent flying by the explosion of the golden bricks, crashing into a lone mountain in the distance. Rocks flew everywhere, and the dead wood turned into fine powder that scattered in all directions. Its ferocity was triggered, and it bared its teeth, becoming even more brutal. Its 4 limbs stomped the ground, and the valley shook. Its mountain-like body charged towards the group. Everyone was shocked and retreated continuously. However, the other party's speed was too fast, and there was a blockade behind them. They immediately fell into despair. Ah! Go to hell! Nangong Xiaobei took out his trump card, the Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder, and smashed it directly on the 6th grade vicious beast. Boom! The Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder exploded, and countless lightning bolts tore apart the vicious beast's body. Blood sprayed out, and when it came into contact with the mountain rocks were instantly corroded, turning into rotten wood. When the air waves blew, it turned into fine powder. One could see how ruthless the vicious beast's blood was. The surrounding vicious beasts were affected, and dozens of vicious beasts died on the spot. The demon core was incomparably hard. When it fell to the ground, Nangong Xiaobei quickly put it away, and his points instantly broke through 1,000. He rushed into the top 100. Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder? Xiaobei, do you have more? Muyo Tianqian was shocked and quickly asked. No more. Only this one, or else I would have thrown it out long ago. Why wait until now? Nangong Xiaobei helplessly replied. Damn it, why did a rank 6 vicious beast appear? Shigu was furious. These rank 6 vicious beasts were not something they could contend against. Gu Qingyu was silent. There was a fundamental difference between rank 6 and rank 5. There was only one Heavenly Dipper Divine Thunder, and if another one appeared, he would be powerless. The 6 of them were far away from the group, and there were no 3-star hunters around. This place might be very safe, but once a rank 6 beast appeared, it would be a real danger zone. Let's go. Although it's more dangerous to be close to the group, at least we don't have to worry about rank 6 vicious beasts. Muyo Tianqian led Nangong Xiaobei and rushed out of the valley, killing a bloody path. Gu Qingyu nodded. Right now, being close to the group was the wisest choice. The 6 of them fought madly, killing hundreds of vicious beasts in succession. However, their bodies were more or less wounded. A large number of dawn were quickly consumed. According to this calculation, the dawn they brought with them were not enough to last them for a month. Yi Qinghan cultivated bitterly for a day and a half, and finally woke up. He swallowed a dan, and his aura was overwhelming. He walked out of the valley with Emperor Yi. A rank 5 mid-tier violent bear charged out. It was more than 10 meters tall, and had extraordinary strength. It pulled up a lonely mountain and smashed it towards Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Swoosh! A saber appeared out of thin air and silently appeared on the violent bear's head. The saber directly chopped off the violent bear's head. A saber light flashed and Xiao Chen obtained a rank 5 demonic core, earning him 10 points. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a smile. He whispered, "Space law combined with violent saber is indeed useful. Within 50 meters, no one can be my opponent. Master, this space and another space have been opened. Countless vicious beasts are pouring in. Many powerful vicious beasts are killing their way in." Emperor Yi closed his eyes. His black hair danced in the wind, and his spiritual sense was abnormally astonishing. He discovered that something was wrong. "Come up. You attack the soul, and I'll attack the body. Let's try to kill the enemy with one slash." Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and lifted Emperor Yi, directly placing him on his shoulder. His legs clamped around Emperor Yi's neck, and he was completely riding him. The two of them merged into one and rushed towards the battlefield. Wung wung wung, Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand to take a look. Sure enough, it was a message from Gu Qingyu asking for help. Southeast, center of the battlefield. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed, and he used the divine dragon steps. His speed was so fast that he almost broke free from the ground. Everywhere he passed, the vicious beasts were killed with one slash. Violent saber flashed, and the demonic cores were taken away. Killing a beast in 10 steps, withered 1,000 meters of corpses. If violent saber attacked, all living creatures would submit. The zither music was vigorous and mighty, and killing intent was everywhere. It shattered the 9 heavens and rushed towards the center of the battlefield. At this moment, the 80,000 to 90,000 strong cultivators were divided into 2 major battlefields. One was around Lin Aoqiong, and the other was 10,000 miles away from the heavenly palace god. As long as they were around them, there was no need to worry about the 6th-class vicious beasts. Naturally, the 2 of them would take care of the mid-6th-class vicious beasts and above. The beginner 6th-class vicious beasts were all killed by the 3-star hunters. They only needed to kill the 5th-class vicious beasts. On the southeast battlefield, more than 50,000 people were plunged into a sea of blood. Countless vicious beasts were killed, and the human heroes were severely injured. The ground was stained with blood. Countless vicious beasts fell into pools of blood, and the blood flowed like a river. The strong corrosiveness was unbearable even for Tao masters. Many were directly poisoned to death by the venom. Not even their bones were left. Gu Qingyu and the others were all severely injured, but they gritted their teeth and held on. If they did not save themselves now, no one would help them. Yi Qinghan came from afar, and the vicious beasts on the periphery immediately pounced on him. Buzz! The sound of the zither reverberated, and a wisp of killing intent seized people's souls and suppressed the souls of the vicious beasts. He paused, and a flash of saber light directly suppressed their vitality. Swoosh! 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 He slashed more than 10 times. Dozens of vicious beasts' heads were thrown up, and their running bodies crashed to the ground. The saber light flashed again, and the demonic cores were taken out. Emperor Yi waved his hand, and all the demonic cores flew to them. Their points quickly went from 0 to 100. Kill! Yi Qinghan found Gu Qingyu and the others. He moved forward with his saber. It was heavy and sharp, and even without the vital essence, It could smash the vicious beasts to death. Everywhere he passed, there was not a single enemy. A super powerhouse could change the course of a battle. Yi Qinghan was not a super existence, but he was crazy enough and tyrannical enough. The 7-foot crazy saber could even cut through the bones of 5th-rank vicious beasts. A single slash was enough to suppress and kill 2 vicious beasts. The vicious beasts in the surroundings began to retreat. They roared continuously, affecting the vicious beasts' killing intent. "Brother Yi is here. Hold on!" Gu Qingyu roared. His solitary sword Dao was fierce and tyrannical, killing until his entire body was covered in blood. Swoosh! Swoosh! Brilliant sword light broke through the void, carving out a bloody path, wanting to converge with Yi Qinghan. Suppress! A page of scripture turned into a divine weapon, crushing the bones of the vicious beast. The earth was suppressed and caved in. Lin Wutian specialized in killing the wounded vicious beast. It was extremely dangerous, but he could turn misfortune into fortune every time. His combat skills were rapidly improving, and his body was also strengthened by a lot. In this kind of battlefield, as long as one could survive, they would be an elite. Roar! A 5th-rank vicious beast's fangs pierced through the corpse of a powerhouse and pounced toward Yi Qinghan. Along the way, the heroes all dodged, not daring to resist. Boom! Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and held the saber with both hands, forcibly tearing apart the momentum of heaven and earth. He raised the saber, and the immortal sex Taoist robe awakened. His momentum was like that of a war god, as if he could split heaven and earth. The surrounding spiritual energy was sucked dry. 1. The sound of the zither was restless, as if the space was rioting. The great Tao of heaven and earth wailed, and the phantom of a divine dragon crossed time and space, cruising in the air, suppressing the 9 heavens. It was as if countless great emperors had fallen, and the austere aura drilled into everyone's consciousness. Even the demonic beasts were stunned on the spot. Tian Gongshin's pupils shrank. He had never heard such a terrifying zither song, so shocking that his blood and qi were boiling. He lost control of his vital essence and began to roar. Crazy attack! 1 slash to seize the gods. Open for me! Boom, boom, boom! No matter how stable the space was, it could not withstand the bombardment of crazy attack. Without the saber radiance, Yi Qinghan charged 100 meters away with his saber, using the space law to the extreme. The 5th-rank vicious beast's reaction was extremely fast. Even if its soul was suppressed by Emperor Ye's zither music for a moment, it quickly broke free. Its huge eyes saw crazy attack coming at its neck, and its body retreated, using its horns to block the crazy attack. Yi Qinghan stood upright, and crazy attack pulled out a flame, ruthlessly striking the beast's tough horns. He crossed his legs, exerted force from his waist, and a force of 10 million jin erupted, almost severing its horns. The power that could shatter heaven and earth directly sent the beast, which weighed dozens of tons, flying, creating a deep trench along the ground. More than 10 vicious beasts were sent flying, and the human powerhouse's hair stood on end. How much strength did it take to send a 5th-rank vicious beast flying hundreds of meters? When the situation changed, it was time to counterattack. Chapter 208. Roar. The ferocious beast roared. It was dizzy and its consciousness was in a mess. As soon as it got up, it stumbled and fell to the ground again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Emperor Ye's celestial dipper glove came back to life. Golden light shone brightly as his 10 fingers strummed the 9 strings of the guqin. His ruthless aura was filled with killing intent, giving people a feeling of being ambushed from all sides. The experts were shocked, and the ferocious beasts roared. Kill! Yi Qinghan pounced on the 5th-grade ferocious beast. Now was the time to fight for points. A 6th-grade ferocious beast was not something he could fight against, so he could only kill the 5th-grade ferocious beast. One was worth more than 100 points. His aura was like a rainbow, making everyone's blood boil. Swoosh! The 12 styles of the flying blade were like dragons and water, stirring up monstrous waves. A roar shook the blood of thousands of experts. Kill! Kill! Tens of thousands of experts joined forces, and their aura was like a rainbow. The ancient space changed color, and blood rained down from the sky. Tiangong Shen looked at Yi Qinghan deeply, and then turned to look at the end of the void. He frowned and his Tao heart was beating rapidly. He knew that things were not going well. This space was no longer under the control of the ancient massacre god. It was controlled by the thousands of races. They were waiting for the hunter's trial to capture all the geniuses in one fell swoop. The ancient massacre god controlled far more ancient spaces. There were at least a few thousand of them. If other spaces were controlled as well, the human race would suffer immeasurable losses. However, the ancient space was so stable that it could not be torn apart unless one was a half-step great emperor. Tiangong Shen could not contact the outside world at all. He could only wait for the space to open in a month. However, based on the current situation, could he really hold out until a month later? Even if he could, what about the other ancient spaces? What should I do? Now, the thousands of races must be sending beasts to exhaust the elite. Once the spirit race appears, it will be difficult to hold on. Nangong Shen thought to himself. However, his eyes did not leave the end of the void, as if a terrifying existence would appear at any time. Brother Lin, please release the suppression and kill the ferocious beasts with all your might. Now is not the time to train. Nangong Shen's voice was low and melodious, echoing into the distance. Okay. Lin Aoqiong's aura was so strong that it felt like he had just woken up from the ancient times. Lin Aoqiong's aura was so strong that it could take the sky away from him. His cultivation level continued to climb. From the Grand Marshal Honored Realm, he had entered the beginner level of the Immortal Gate. Then, he had reached the intermediate level of the Immortal Gate. His terrifying eyes pierced through the sky and scanned the ancient space. His will alone was enough to crush several low-level 5th-rank ferocious beasts. Lin Aoqiong grabbed in the air and pulled out an ancient tree from the ground. With a gentle shake, the tree turned into tens of thousands of sharp swords. With a push of his palms, the tens of thousands of swords pierced through the bodies of countless beasts. Roar! 10,000 beasts roared angrily. They fell into pools of blood and struggled frantically, but they were nailed to death by wooden swords one after another. Blood flowed out like streams, shocking everyone to the point that their fine hairs stood on end. This was the battle prowess of an emperor. At this level, numbers could no longer determine victory or defeat. Only true combat strength could determine victory or defeat. Kill! At this point, it would be stupid not to kill. Everyone was stunned for a moment before they came to their senses. They focused on killing the ferocious beasts that were severely injured. Almost every person killed a ferocious beast with a sword. They fought for the demonic cores crazily. In an instant, hundreds of people had accumulated more than 1,000 points. Lin Wutian transformed into a sharp sword and killed more than 10 ferocious beasts that were severely injured. His body was bathed in blood and his body was being refined crazily. However, his eyes were fixed on Lin Aoqiong. He was stunned by his unparalleled battle prowess, but it also stimulated his endless battle intent. Gu Qingyu held the golden bone sword and comprehended the profound meaning of Lin Aoqiong's sword. Yi Qinghan killed the ferocious beasts while comprehending the spatial laws. Once he reached the minor completion realm, he would be able to forcibly absorb the gold origin from the jade pendant. Comprehending the spatial laws while fighting was tiring, but the speed of improvement was not to be underestimated. Using the spatial laws went from inexperienced to proficient, and from proficient to handy. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan looked at a top-tier rank 5 ferocious beast 100 meters away. Its bloodline was not high, but its combat strength was unparalleled. With a slash, the saber appeared 100 meters away in an instant and cut off the ferocious beast's neck. The ferocious beast's eyes were filled with fear before it died. It did not know how Yi Qinghan could be so fast. Emperor Yi played the guqin to suppress the ferocious beast's blood and qi, but it also stimulated the battle intent of the heroes. Lin Aoqiong danced to the music and swung his sword again. His natal divine weapon slashed out countless sword shadows, each of which was filled with murderous intent. His speed was completely beyond the comprehension of the crowd. Swoosh! Although it was just a single slash, it killed thousands of rank 5 ferocious beasts in an instant. With a flick of his sword, thousands of demonic cores were suspended in the void and were taken away by him. No one dared to snatch them. 30,000 points. No one could touch his points. Even the top 10 combined did not have as many points as him. He was an existence worthy of respect. Yi Qinghan killed hundreds of ferocious beasts and used the space rule hundreds of times consecutively. His face was pale. Emperor Yi could not take it anymore and started to retreat slowly. His blood-red robe fluttered in the wind. He turned into a demon and glared at the ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts did not dare to look at him and started to look for other humans. Lin Aoqiong went on a killing spree. None of the rank 6 ferocious beasts could withstand a single blow from him. Roar! One of the ferocious beasts seemed to be intelligent. With a roar, the remaining ferocious beasts retreated. Boundless sword path, flying flowers are swords. Lin Aoqiong formed a seal with his palms and manipulated everything in the space. A drop of blood became a sword, and thousands of leaves became divine swords. They hung in the sky like divine swords, ready to strike at any time. Go! Whoosh, 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 swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless swords rained down on the ferocious beasts. Blood gushed out like a sea, and the sky was dyed red. God Slayer, unsheath! Hum! A divine weapon was awakened and hung above Lin Aoqiong's head. When the sword was unsheathed, a rainbow pierced through the sky and lit up the sky. The ancient space became hell, and corpses were everywhere. Eerie white bones rose and fell with the waves of blood. Kill! The divine sword pierced through the river and turned into a dragon that was thousands of miles long. It swam in the sky and wrapped around countless ferocious beasts. The dragon opened its mouth and swallowed 10,000 ferocious beasts. The most powerful and domineering sword qi shattered their flesh and blood into nothingness. Only tens of thousands of demonic cores were left hanging in the air. Everyone held their breath. This was not a battle between humans. It was a battle between gods. Many people's hearts were shattered. Their eyes were filled with despair. Who could surpass such beings? Lin Aoqiong's understanding of swordsmanship had reached the peak. With a wave of his hand, he could control the origin of all techniques. More than half of the ferocious beasts broke free. They were terrified and did not dare to fight back. Don't chase after a cornered enemy. Find a clean place to heal your wounds. In a day at most, there will be an even more terrifying battle. Nangongshan said in a low voice. What's going on? Isn't this an experiential learning assessment? Why are there so many 6th-grade ferocious beasts? A very powerful man with a sharp sword stood out. His body was shackled. Even though he was severely injured, he was still unyielding. He was furious. More than 100,000 people had entered, and 1/10 of them had died on the first day. How was this an assessment? This was clearly a suicide mission. Dogu Baitian. He was the most powerful being among the younger generation of the sovereign domain. Only he dared to question Nangongshan. He was eccentric and did not distinguish between good and evil. With a sword in hand, he only wished to defeat the heavens. No matter who his opponent was, he would defeat them with a single strike. At this moment, he was ranked second only to Lin Aoqiong. He had already reached 10,000 points. His realm was suppressed to Greater Martial Venerable, but he was far ahead of the others. Gu Qingyu had to admit that no matter how talented he was, he could not be compared to the disciples of the ancient families. At least, he could not be compared to them in the early stages. As for the later stages, it was unknown. The space is no longer under the control of the ancient massacre god. It is controlled by the 10,000 races. Now is not the time to question me. I can't give you an explanation. What you can do now is to quickly recover your strength and fight with me later. The real ferocious beasts in human form, and even the real spiritual beasts in human form. Their intelligence is not inferior to ours, and their combat power is even more terrifying. The death trial has not started yet. Nangong Shen looked down at the crowd and said in a low voice, "What?" The crowd was shocked. Were they being surrounded by the 10,000 races? Yi Qinghan knew that something was wrong when he came out. He was too lazy to ask any more questions. He swallowed a large number of spiritual pills to recover his true essence. The more strength he had, the more likely he would be able to survive. The people of the crazy sect did not say anything. Gu even sat on the ground and used spiritual pills to recover his consciousness. At this moment, Yi Lingyu came over with Yi Jianma. Seeing the group of people recovering, he also started to use spiritual pills to recover. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan felt that his realm was loosening. He had a chance to break through to the middle level of Tao Master. He could not help but smile. Now that he had broken through to the next level, he had a greater chance to protect himself. Maybe his soul could enter the immortal realm. At that time, the profound meaning of the law of space would be more powerful and his attack range might be more than 1,000 meters. Brother Yi, I didn't expect you to come for the assessment. Didn't the Tianji sect predict the crisis this time? Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Jianma and could not help but be curious. The elders of the Tianji sect should have divined this kind of experience. How could they make such a big mistake? Grandpa did not predict that there would be a situation here. But he said that if I participate in the assessment, I only have a slim chance of survival. If I can turn the misfortune into a blessing, it might even affect my fate. So I want to try my best to change my fate. Yi Jianma stared at Yi Qinghan and a light flashed in her eyes. She said lightly, I think the chance of survival may lie with you too, so I asked my brother to come to you. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said to himself, the Tianji dragon said there was only a slim chance of survival. It seems that this time it is really dangerous. I want to break through to the middle level of Tao Master. Since you think the chance of survival lies with me, let's make a bet. I'll use a upper grade 5th grade spiritual pill to exchange for your life. What do you think? Yi Qinghan stared at the two of them. What he needed now was a spiritual pill. With a spiritual pill, he could advance quickly. Now, in order to save his life, he had to make a deal. In the end, he would do his best to help her. Humph, like master, like pet. I thought that B*TCH bird would take the opportunity to blackmail me. I didn't expect that you would blackmail me. Yi Jianma snorted and was very dissatisfied. I'm dizzy. I didn't even come out to speak, but you scolded me. You deserve your fate. The parrot rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body and said innocently. The parrot knew that it was dangerous, so it had been hiding in Yi Qinghan's body and only dared to come out now. At this moment, it looked around and could not help shivering. Then it whispered, Master, it's too dangerous here. I can feel that death is coming. Let's go quickly. Chapter 209. The parrot's perception of danger was very accurate. As soon as it sensed death approaching, it immediately prepared to flee. This is a sealed ancient space. Where do you want me to go? To the 10,000 races territory? Yi Qinghan asked. Ah, then I'm finished. This divine bird can already see the god of death descending. The parrot was frightened. It looked towards the horizon, trembling all over. If you want to escape, then help me find some precious spirit medicine. Once I break through, you'll have a chance to live. Yi Qinghan stared at the parrot. It was impossible that this ancient space didn't have a precious medicine that surpassed the 5th grade. It all depended on whether or not this lowly bird was willing to look for it, or whether or not it dared to take the risk. Don't joke around. This broken space is like hell. Outside of blood and bones, where would there be? The parrot looked around, disgusted with the environment. There wasn't much spiritual energy here, and the vicious beasts here didn't have any intelligence. They were all greedy and bloodthirsty creatures. But halfway through its sentence, the parrot suddenly shut its mouth. Its eyes flashed, and it transmitted its voice to Yi Qinghan. Master, your luck is good. There really is a treasure here. Where is it? What grade? If it's the 4th grade, then don't waste my time. Yi Qinghan glanced at the parrot and whispered. It's too far away. I can't tell what grade it is, but I know it's definitely a treasure that surpasses the 5th grade. I'm afraid it's even older than your ancestors, the parrot said excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded and said to Gu Qingyu and the others, I'll leave for a while. You follow the crowd. If there's any danger, call me back through the communication talisman. Everyone nodded and didn't say anything. With Yi Qinghan's fighting strength, as long as he wasn't surrounded by vicious beasts, he would definitely be able to escape. Under the leadership of the 2 supreme powerhouses, the large group moved into the distance. The smell of blood here was too strong, making it impossible for them to cultivate in peace. In the ancient space at night, other than the blood-red radiance, this place looked like hell. It was bright red with towering ancient trees that pierced the clouds and endless mountain ranges. The atmosphere was magnificent, as if they had returned to the ancient era where heroes roamed about and 10,000 races worked together. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the chaos to disappear into the darkness with Emperor Yi and the parrot. His speed was incredible, and his profound understanding of the laws of space allowed him to appear several thousand kilometers away in a short period of time. Nangong Shen had just calmed everyone down and wanted to find Yi Qinghan, but he found that Yi Qinghan had disappeared again. He frowned and thought to himself, why does this guy disappear like a ghost? He's only at the junior level of Tao Master, but I can't sense his aura. Out of desperation, Nangong Shen could only find a few particularly powerful existences to discuss a strategy. Those who could participate in the discussion were all the most terrifying existences of the younger generation. Lin Aoqiong, Dugu Beitian, and Xiao Yuni. Dugu Beitian and Xiao Yuni had suppressed their realms and changed their appearances to train here. Although they did not have the imperial bloodline, their cultivation was not inferior to theirs. This time, they're obviously targeting the younger generation. I think the myriad tribes must have sent young king bloodline warriors. If 5 or 6 of them come, it'll be fine. If there are more than 10 of them, we'll be in danger, Nangong Shen said in a low voice. King bloodline warriors were equivalent to the chief disciples of the top human forces. Their bloodline was noble, and some of them were even on par with the imperial bloodline. However, their vitality was very strong, and their lifespan was much longer than humans of the same level. Therefore, even the youngest king bloodline warrior was close to 1,000 years old. His cultivation was no different from that of the imperial bloodline, and his combat strength might be even higher. We'll kill whoever comes. I don't believe that the myriad tribes would dare to send someone of the divine martial realm to kill us, unless they want to shed all pretense of cordiality and start a full-scale war, Xiao Yuni said. His realm had recovered, and his combat strength was no weaker than Lin Aoqiong's. Dugu Beitian held the inverted bone sword. His eyes were like stars, and his back was facing the crowd. He looked down at the sky, and he was so cold that he did not want to say a word. The sword was like the person. The inverted bone sword represented Dugubaitian's character. He had the inverted bone sword, and he was arrogant and unruly. He only had himself in his eyes, and he did not even care about the heavens. Lin Aoqiong was indifferent. He tapped his divine weapon with his fingertips, and a proud smile appeared on his face. In his opinion, so what if there were more than 10 king bloodline warriors? With one strike, no one in the same realm could stop him. Nangong sneered. These young people had never participated in a real life or death battle, so they did not understand the terror of king bloodline warriors. He himself was also of the imperial bloodline, and he was an imperial bloodline warrior. How could he not be arrogant? However, he had faced king bloodline warriors of the myriad tribes, and there was not much difference between him and an imperial bloodline warrior. You'll know when they appear. The universe is vast, and it's not something that juniors like us can understand. King bloodline warriors are blessed by nature, and their talents are extraordinary. Some of the king bloodline warriors have the Qilin bloodline, while others have the ancient poisonous blood. Once you touch them, you'll die. I hope you can maintain your attitude and not underestimate the world, Nangong Shen warned coldly. So what? In my eyes, even if there are tens of thousands of people of the same realm, they are nothing but fleeting clouds. They can't even withstand a single blow. Gudu Baitian's killing intent surged. He did not want to suppress his realm anymore. His qi and blood burned, and it shook the 9 heavens and caused the ancient space to tremble. An austere aura covered a radius of 10,000 miles. The wounds on his body quickly healed, and golden blood surged in his body. It was extremely terrifying. Lin Aoqiong narrowed his eyes and looked at Gudu Baitian. Battle intent surged in his eyes. His fingertips moved the scabbard, and the sword's whistling sound turned into a dragon's roar that pierced through 10,000 miles. If it were not for the fact that this was not a suitable time for a big battle, he would have definitely fought with him. Nangong Shen was the oldest, and he did not want to say much to them. At this time, only the appearance of king bloodline warriors could unite the human race. Sigh, if king bloodline warriors were so easy to deal with, why would the human race be so weak for so many eras? Nangong Shen shook his head and smiled bitterly. His lonely figure was filled with vicissitudes. He had struggled for hundreds of years, but he was only a 4-star hunter. He was still far away from proving his Tao. Now, a golden era was about to begin. He did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Late at night, the experts of the myriad tribes did not appear. Everyone spent the night worrying. They were mentally exhausted, but they did not dare to sleep. The king-level ferocious beasts seemed to be doing it on purpose. They did not appear until dawn. They were exhausting the energy of the human expert. From time to time, they would send unintelligent ferocious beasts to kill them. Every time, the ferocious beasts would leave behind thousands of corpses and flee. The myriad tribes did not have many things, but they had many such ferocious beasts. They did not care about casualties, but the human race could not withstand such exhaustion. They could hold on for 1 day, but could they hold on for 3 days? Late at night the next day, the human experts were extremely exhausted. They could not bear it anymore and wanted to meditate. However, the king-level bloodline warriors appeared. 5 king-level bloodline warriors, just as Nangong Shen had said, were extremely powerful. They fought Lin Aoqiong and the others head-on. Their fight was earth-shattering, and the human experts were stained with blood. Lin Aoqiong was powerful. His speed almost broke through time and space. The king-level bloodline warriors were forced to retreat. They were forced to reveal their true forms. Their huge bodies covered the sky. They waved their forelimbs, and in an instant, they pulled up a mountain and smashed it toward Lin Aoqiong. Whoosh! The divine sword was unsheathed. The god-slaying sword Qi shattered the lonely mountain. Everything could be transformed into divine weapons. They attacked the king-level beasts from all directions. Dugubatian was indeed a reverse bone master. He relied solely on the reverse bone sword and his physical body to be unparalleled. He killed the humanoid king-level bloodline warriors until their souls were stained with blood. His physical body could withstand the opponent's full-force attack. His body was made of iron, and he bathed in blood. He did not seek victory but defeat. Xiao Yuni was dealing with a king-level bloodline leader. Although he could not defeat him, he could delay him. He was buying time for the other human experts. Nangong Shen was the strongest. He blocked 2 king-level bloodline warriors and forced them to retreat. He suppressed them with a palm strike, and their bodies were shattered. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. However, their vitality was so strong that they recovered in the blink of an eye. The human race was excited. It was good that they could kill the king-level bloodline warriors. However, the void trembled again. 3 more king-level bloodline warriors came from afar. They had all transformed into human form. Are the myriad tribes going to fight us to the death? Everyone was in a difficult situation. They fought desperately to kill the ordinary rank 5 ferocious beasts. Die! Lin Aoqiong, Dugubatian, and the others were furious. Their killing intent was almost tangible. They launched their strongest attacks, wanting to kill the king-level bloodline warriors in front of them. Roar! The 5 king-level bloodline warriors all revealed their true forms. One was a tiger king, one was a dragon king, one was an eagle king, and 2 were giant bears. They fought back madly. Their bodies were pierced by the sword qi, and blood flowed freely. Hum! Boom! The sword qi released by the 3 experts pierced through the sky and shot into the distance. The king-level bloodline warriors roared. Their bodies were pierced, and they were seriously injured. The 3 king-level bloodline warriors behind them took advantage of the fact that the human race's sword qi was not over yet. They were unable to gather their strength. A dragon king swung its giant tail and smashed it at the 3 of them. An even stronger eagle king showed its sharp claws and tore at Lin Aoqiong's head. Even the void was pierced. Roar! An unknown roar shook the mountains and rivers. The myriad beasts, who had the upper hand, retreated under the lead of the king-level bloodline warriors. Nangong Shen's face was gloomy. His eyes saw through the shackles and looked to the end. He clenched his iron fists and said coldly, "When did these bastards learn to be smart? How dare they play mind games with me? What bloodline did that roar come from?" Xiao Yuni asked in a low voice. He could feel that the first few king-level bloodline warriors were not strong at all. They were probably the weakest among the myriad beasts. They were only here to exhaust their combat power. The ferocious beast that roared and ordered them to retreat was the most terrifying one. Qilin Tiger. It is a hybrid between the emperor-level divine beast Qilin and the sacred beast White Tiger. Once its bloodline is restored, it will definitely reach the top of the 9 heavens. Nangong Shen said in a low voice. 10 years ago, I fought with it. The Qilin bloodline and the White Tiger bloodline in its bloodline are very strong. Its combat power is extraordinary. Even after I awakened the Heavenly Palace divine blood, I only managed to injure it. 10 years later, its combat power will be even more shocking. If it is baptized by the Qilin bloodline and the White Tiger bloodline, we will all die here. It was not that Nangong Shen was pessimistic. Creatures that had been baptized by the blood of emperor-level divine beasts, even a rabbit, could cause the myriad beasts to tremble. Not to mention a king-level existence like this. Everyone's faces were ugly. Even Gu Qingyu, who had a strong will, felt that he could not fight anymore. If they did not rest, the next battle would be very dangerous. Chapter 210. The ancient space at night was filled with danger zones. A 7-colored snake, capable of killing a 6th-rank beast, was currently blocking Yi Qinghan's path with its forked tongue. The parrot's feathers exploded. This type of snake was as fast as lightning. When it moved, it was impossible to dodge. Quick, kill it. Kill this little worm. It's disgusting to watch. Yi Qinghan held his saber and suppressed the snake. It didn't dare to move as they confronted each other in the swamp. The swamp's gravity was extremely strong. Once trapped, even sixth-rank beasts couldn't escape. The swamp was filled with shrubs and poisonous snake. Black bones could be seen everywhere like dead wood. Clearly, they had all died from poison. The law of gravity descended. A black origin dragon formed in front of Yi Qinghan. It glared at the snake and forced it to retreat. The venomous snake retreated and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. Only now did he realize how terrifying the speed of this venomous snake was. Once it crossed the 6th rank, it would definitely be able to kill an immortal sect expert in an instant. F***ck, there's actually a 7-colored snake here. Damn it, I hate these small snakes the most. They're freakishly fast. The parrot was still unsettled and cursed. Yi Qinghan was indifferent. He stepped on the swamp and moved forward. The black dragon formed from the water and darkness elements coiled around his body. He was especially careful. Poisonous snakes constantly slithered through the shrubs. They were astonishingly fast and disappeared in a flash. More and more corpses appeared. Some of the stronger corpses were still glowing with a golden light. One could imagine how powerful the owners of these corpses were when they were alive. Are you sure there's a treasure here? Why do I feel like this is a land of death? Yi Qinghan was solemn. The deeper they went, the stronger the killing intent. One could imagine how dangerous this swamp was. It was definitely not a place where a Tao master could enter. There's a treasure here. But it's also very dangerous. Why don't we retreat? The parrot murmured and looked into the depths. It was somewhat timid. Since there's a treasure and we're already here, I shouldn't give up halfway. Yi Qinghan was resolute. He gripped his saber and walked into the depth. Groan, the sound of the zither was graceful, like the sound of nature, extremely pleasing to the ear. It was as if this was the only sound left in the world, and there was no other sound. Even the poisonous snake was unwilling to move, quietly listening to the most beautiful melody in the world. After the killing intent dispersed, Yi Qinghan quickly advanced. His clothes danced in the wind as he covered 1,000 meters with each step. He was becoming increasingly proficient in the spatial laws. His stellar transposition had almost reached the level of form displacement. The swamp was endless, as if it extended to the end of space. It was full of danger, and a lonely figure grew longer and longer against the backdrop of the red clouds. A melodious melody pierced through space and drifted into the distance. They had traveled more than 30,000 miles, used the laws of space, and spent a day and a night. From this, it could be seen just how dangerous it was inside. Finally, a mountain range that connected the heavens appeared in front of them. It was as if a golden dragon was raising its head, about to take to the heavens. The mountain range was majestic and majestic. 5-colored immortal energy pervaded the air, making one yearn for it. If one really thought that this was an immortal realm, then they would be gravely mistaken. The 5-colored fog was definitely not immortal energy, but rather the miasma formed from 10,000-year-old poison. It could definitely poison an existence of the divine martial realm to death. Strands of emperors might drifted into the distance, suppressing the heavens. Although they were few in number, they attracted Yi Qinghan's attention. Did a great emperor appear here? The parrot was frightened, and its eyes widened as it looked at the distant mountain range. No. It came from a corpse in a corner of the mountain range. A half-step great emperor has died here. Emperor Yi said in a deep voice, emphasizing every word. Impossible. Even a fake great emperor couldn't have died here. The parrot was shocked. Great emperor-level existences were existences that could only be looked up to. Let's go and take a look. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out golden light. He clenched the sword frenzy, extremely daring. Below the mountain range, there was a withered corpse that had been dead for an unknown number of years. However, its body was not damaged. Its black hair swayed in the wind, and its emperor's robes emitted waves of emperor's might. Countless years had not destroyed the traces of its existence. 300 meters away from the corpse, there was the corpse of a 9-colored snake about 3 meters long. Its head was pierced through, and there was no sign of life. Yi Qinghan stood more than 100 meters away, not daring to get any closer. He stared at the corpse, his Tao heart trembling. He felt that the strand of black hair was enough to suppress the experts of the immortal sect. The withered flesh and blood contained countless laws and Tao art. Even after 10,000 years, the corporeal body would not be destroyed. Fake Great Emperor. This level was simply too powerful. Even a divine martial realm expert's body would not be able to withstand the corrosion of the poison here. It would rot after 2 or 3 years, and after 10 years, not even bones would be left. However, a fake Great Emperor's corpse could be preserved for tens of thousands of years. No one knew which era this powerful fake Great Emperor was from. The ancient space was endless. Even a great emperor would not have the time to search every corner. The swamp outside was boundless and extremely dangerous. Therefore, this great emperor's corpse was buried here for countless eras, and no one discovered it. Yi Qinghan looked at the 9-colored snake's corpse. Its body was covered in wounds, all of which were fatal. It was damaged by the emperor's laws and could not be healed. In the end, it was able to perish together with the fake Great Emperor. One had to admit that this poisonous snake was extremely powerful. Looking around, Yi Qinghan found that there were no other creatures that could survive here. He gritted his teeth and endured the mighty emperor's might. He walked towards the corpse of the great emperor and the 9-colored snake. "Master, let's not play with fire. It's the great emperor's corpse. Even if it doesn't have any signs of life, if we get too close, the corpse can kill us instantly." The parrot was shocked. It grabbed Yi Qinghan's shoulder tightly, wanting to pull him back. Emperor's robes. Even if it's at the beginning of the 8th grade, it can make us invincible among the younger generation. It's a pity to give it up like this. Yi Qinghan stood between the 9-colored snake and the great emperor's corpse, his eyes flashing. F***ck, I don't want to die. The emperor's might cannot be offended. Since ancient times, even if the great emperor's corpse is offended, a wisp of its might can kill us instantly. The parrot's feathers stood up and it glared at Yi Qinghan. It turned out that it was not the worst. Master was the worst. He even dared to have ideas about the great emperor's corpse. Sigh, the great emperor's corpse cannot be desecrated. What about the 9-colored snake's corpse? It hasn't transformed, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Yi Qinghan was extremely reluctant. The emperor's robes were the most precious treasures of the human race. Some families that had existed since ancient times would have one. When the human race was threatened, they would use it. Once it was born, it would cause the world to collapse. When the emperor's son wore the emperor's robes, even if he was at the divine martial realm, he was no different from a fake great emperor. It can even poison a fake emperor to death. Master, let's go. The parrot looked around and was very puzzled. It said curiously, I can clearly feel that there is a treasure here. Why is it that the closer we get, the more I can't feel it? The parrot was afraid of death and wanted to leave. However, Yi Qinghan was unwilling. The great emperor's corpse was placed in front of him, and he couldn't touch it. If he didn't even dare to touch the corpse of an 8th-grade vicious beast, then how could he cultivate the great Tao? If you're afraid of death, then hide further away. This 9-colored snake is mine. Moreover, even if we can't desecrate the great emperor's corpse, we can at least let it rest in peace. We fought for the human race. We shouldn't let our corpses be buried in the wilderness, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. This fine. If you die, then I'll definitely die too. I'll accompany you. Perhaps there will be an opportunity. The parrot stared at the great emperor's corpse and said in a serious voice. Yi Qinghan put away the heavy wild blade and formed seals with his palms. He respectfully walked towards the great emperor's corpse. The emperor's robes surged as if there was a reaction. As he approached the great emperor's corpse, Yi Qinghan stared at the fake great emperor. Even though it had been dead for countless years, it was still vivid and incomparably dignified. Mighty great emperor, Junior Yi Qinghan is passing by. I really can't bear to see your corpse buried in the wilderness. I'm begging you now. If you or the emperor's robes have a spirit, please allow Junior to bury you. Yi Qinghan knelt. This was out of respect and not out of submission. An ancestor who had died in battle for the human race was worthy of kneeling. Hua hua hua. The emperor's robes danced in the void as the great emperor's corpse floated up. There was actually a blood-colored lingji below the corpse. It was the great emperor's blood that had gathered countless essences. After tens of thousands of years, it had grown into a blood corpse lingji. The parrot and Yi Qinghan trembled. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. The emperor's robes had a spirit. They didn't want their master's corpse to lie in the wilderness for countless years. They could see that Yi Qinghan was respectfully bestowing a great karmic fate upon it. The blood corpse lingji contained great emperor's blood and had long since comprehended the great Tao laws. It wanted to fly into the sky. The emperor's robes surged and strands of great emperor's aura suppressed the heavens, suppressing the blood corpse lingji so much that it couldn't move. Yi Qinghan was excited. He didn't immediately take the blood corpse lingji. Instead, he madly rushed towards the mountain range. His true essence was vast and mighty. It wrapped around his golden body and blocked the poisonous gas. He hacked apart a giant ancient tree and made it into a wooden coffin. He carried the coffin forward and placed it about 10 meters in front of the great emperor's corpse. Then, he respectfully said, "Great Emperor, please enter the coffin. Junior will definitely send you to the ancestral land so that you can rest in peace." The great emperor's corpse erupted with golden light and great emperor's aura was rich to the extreme. The emperor's robes surged for 10,000 miles and 10,000 laws wailed. However, it didn't enter the coffin. Instead, it captured the blood corpse lingji in the air and sent it into Yi Qinghan's hands. The blood corpse lingji was fragrant and contained the essence of great emperor's blood. It had been accumulating for tens of thousands of years. If it wasn't for the great emperor's corpse's suppression, it would have already transformed and flew into the sky. Yi Qinghan looked at the blood corpse lingji with golden light flashing in his eyes. He clenched his fists and deeply bowed towards the great emperor's corpse. The great emperor's corpse flew over Yi Qinghan's head. A large hole appeared on his back and 2 fangs were nailed to the great emperor's corpse. They were clearly the fangs of the 9-colored snake. Is he really a fake great emperor? Can a fake great emperor's robe have a spirit? Can it exist for eternity? The parrot was aghast. It looked at the great emperor's corpse again and couldn't help but tremble. Its eyes were full of reverence. Yi Qinghan was also puzzled. If he was a true emperor, how could the 9-colored snake poison him to death? Unless there was something strange about his death, the fatal wound wasn't on his back. The great emperor's corpse entered the coffin and automatically sealed the coffin. The surroundings were filled with golden light as the great emperor's aura formed the coffin. It became extremely majestic. Then, its aura was withdrawn and it became completely quiet. Yi Qinghan was still excited. He looked at the blood corpse lingji in his hand and could feel that it wanted to escape. He clenched his fists tightly, afraid that it would fly away. "Son, come down. You and I will divide this supreme treasure. Comprehend the Grand Tao's laws and the origin. Seize this opportunity. This will be the first step to our transformation." Yi Qinghan was extremely excited. He felt that even if he had a mortal body, he could still enter the Imperial Prince level. He might even surpass them. He took out the Enlightenment Godly Lotus. Its light illuminated 1,000 miles. The Grand Tao's runes appeared. Myriad laws gathered and the origin descended. The blood corpse Lingji calmed down. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground as the Godly Lotus spiraled in the void. Emperor Ye's eyes were as dazzling as jewels. His limpid eyes were enough to shatter the shackles of space. His black hair fluttered in the wind as his 4 wings spread out on their own. Chapter 211. Below the mountain range, divine energy shot out in all directions, illuminating thousands of miles. The treasured light made the 2 of them look like the son and daughter of a god. Yi Qinghan divided the bloody corpse Lingji into 5 portions. He gave the 2 largest portions to Emperor Yi and then threw a small piece to the parrot. The parrot was so happy that it couldn't close its mouth. Purple light covered the sky, and the fragrance of Emperor's blood assailed the nostrils. It contained endless laws and great Tao origins. These laws and great Tao origins had already taken shape. As long as there was time, one could comprehend them. With the Enlightenment Divine Lotus, one could increase one's comprehension of great Tao origins. Now, with the formed laws and great Tao origins, it was even easier. Yi Qinghan stood on the shoulder of a giant and looked down on all living things. This was even more advantageous than having an imperial bloodline. After swallowing a piece of the bloody corpse Lingji, the emperor's blood essence rushed through his limbs and bones. His blood boiled, and there were signs of evolution. His blood turned from pale gold to golden yellow, and slowly to dark gold. The terrifying blood essence tempered the golden body. The great Tao origins and great Tao origins gathered around the golden body. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and pierced through the shackles. His mental energy instantly pierced through the folds of space. With a thought, he traveled thousands of miles and returned to his original position. The parrot's pupils shrank and it cried out, "So fast! Did he leave?" There were 3,000 minor Taos, but only 6 great Taos. The Reincarnation Great Tao, the Chaos Great Tao, the Yin-Yang Great Tao, the Destruction Great Tao, the Order Great Tao, and the Yin-Yang Great Tao. It was difficult for a person to comprehend a single great Tao in their lifetime. Even great emperors could only comprehend a single great Tao and become invincible under the heavens. They could kill supreme existences with a single gaze. A great Tao appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. It was the Destruction Great Tao. It was complete, without any flaws. This great Tao proved that the great emperor buried in the wooden coffin was a true great emperor, not a fake great emperor, nor a great emperor. Who is this great emperor? Since the beginning of the desolate era, the number of great emperors that have been born can be counted on one hand. How could a great emperor have mysteriously fallen in this ancient space? There is definitely more than one emperor corpse here. Where is the other one? Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end as he gazed into the depths of the mountain range. He had an inexplicable premonition that this great emperor's corpse was most likely a great emperor from the primordial era. It was not recorded by the human race, not even in the divine martial imperial codex. Otherwise, the divine martial imperial codex would have a great reaction upon seeing this great emperor's corpse. A corpse could travel through several great eras and still be preserved until now. Just how glorious must he have been when he was alive? Yi Qinghan did not have time to think. He began to comprehend the great Tao of destruction. As long as he could comprehend this great Tao, even if it was just the embryonic form, as long as he opened his eyes, he would be able to instantly kill those at the same level as him. He would be comparable to an imperial prince. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, was much more terrifying than Yi Qinghan. Her eyes already contained destruction, so her understanding of the great Tao of destruction was far more powerful than Yi Qinghan's. In addition to the great Tao of destruction and the enlightenment divine lotus, the speed of her improvement was unimaginable. Within a radius of 100 miles, the aura of destruction was everywhere. The two of them worked together to control the great Tao of destruction and suppressed everything. The only thing they could not suppress was the 9-colored snake's corpse. The great Tao of destruction entered the mountain range, stirring up a majestic great emperor's aura to counterattack the two of them. As expected, there was a second great emperor that had fallen here. It should be a top-notch expert of the myriad races. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi withdrew their great Tao of destruction at the same time, not daring to provoke the great emperor's aura. This was just a majestic aura of destruction, and it was already so crazy. If they could comprehend some embryonic form, they could definitely become a supreme battle king of the same level, a true battle king. Even high-grade bloodlines could not withstand the destruction. Their blood and chi became vigorous, as if they were about to burn. Their bodies emitted golden light, and the terror of the zither immortal crimson demon physique was finally revealed. Wisps of divine Guqin illusions spread in all directions. Emperor Ye's body actually formed a huge divine Guqin illusions behind him, merging with his body. Emperor Yi grasped with his hand and could actually control the divine Guqin illusions. With a gentle pluck of the strings, the sound of nature tore through the void from the end of the wilderness, suppressing the great emperor's aura. The mountain range became quiet, and even the wind stopped blowing. Everything was calm, and the space was stagnant. The pure heart of a child, the divine Guqin Taoist physique, and the monstrous combat power gathered in one person to form the unique physique of all time, the zither immortal crimson demon physique. Boom! Emperor Yi broke through and became a Tao sovereign. He immersed himself in the Tao of Guqin, playing the Guqin in peace. Even the great emperor in the wooden coffin seemed to have a soul. Opening the lid, the withered corpse of the great emperor actually had divine light flowing, as if it could be revived at any time. The sound of the Guqin was indescribably beautiful, and the divine lotus of enlightenment opened her eyes. She stood up and danced, and even the stones around her seemed to have spirituality, and everything was revived. Looking at her beautiful figure, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and frantically suppressed his trembling Tao heart. After a long time, Yi Qinghan calmed down and closed his eyes to comprehend the great Tao of destruction, allowing the medicinal properties of the bloody corpse Ganoderma to burn and condense his bloodline. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt that his body and bloodline had become incomparably strong, and the power of a punch was at least 100 times stronger. This was why the Emperor's son and princess's combat power was so terrifying. It was because they stood on the shoulders of giants, bearing the glory of the great emperor. Their appearance represented the great emperor's personal arrival. Even if they were only at the peak of the great emperor realm, their direct descendants' bloodlines were extremely powerful. Yi Qinghan's eyes looked at the mountain range, and although there were trees and forests in the way, they couldn't block his vision. A humanoid great emperor's corpse was nailed to a cliff, and the great emperor's blood dyed the cliff red. It was incomparably eerie, and the great emperor's eyes were ferocious as if they wanted to devour the sky. A great emperor's weapon pierced through his head, sealing all of his strength, and he couldn't break free until now. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end, and it was as if he saw an ancient beast that wanted to revive and destroy everything. The cliff was surrounded by abysses, and countless mountain ranges were flattened. The surrounding 10,000 miles was withered, and there were no trees growing. There was only a little bit of vitality in the periphery, and the terrifying sword scars could infer the tragedy of the past. The reason why this space was independent was very likely because it was cut from another plane by their battle. There was indeed a second great emperor's corpse. The great emperor of the human race and the great emperor of the demon race perished together. No, the great emperor of the human race was slightly stronger. After killing his opponent, he was like a lamp without oil and was on the verge of death. However, he was ambushed by the nine-colored snake, and once again suppressed the poisonous snake. In the end, he was powerless to leave this space and died tragically on the spot. What a pity! Yi Qinghan was sad. A great emperor of a generation had died without a sound. This was how heroes were. When they died, their corpses would be buried in the wilderness, and they would exist in this ancient space for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. No matter how the wind and rain battered them, their corpses would not decay, and their flesh would not rot. However, no one in the human race remembered him. The end of heroes was always cruel, but the human race needed such heroes. Without them, how could the human race be glorious? The human race also respected them. When such a great emperor's corpse appeared, even the peak great emperor of the human race would have to kneel and weep. Yi Qinghan did not dare to use the great emperor's weapon, so he left it here to suppress this supreme beast in human form. This was its final resting place, and also its supreme glory. After thinking through all this, Yi Qinghan no longer diverted his attention to the supreme existence in the mountain range. He focused on comprehending the last bit of the spatial law's profoundness. As long as he could comprehend this last bit of the spatial law's profoundness, he would be able to achieve initial success in spatial laws. He would be able to shift his position and travel thousands of miles in an instant. It would not consume much of his mental strength. The jade pendant spun at high speed in his sea of consciousness, and all of the spatial law's profoundness appeared. The jade pendant shattered, and the origin of metal wanted to break free from its shackles and transform into a true dragon to leave. The divine martial imperial codex was activated and forcefully suppressed the origin of metal in his sea of consciousness. No matter how much it struggled, it could not break free from the restraints of the imperial codex. Yi Qinghan focused on comprehending the spatial laws. After an unknown period of time, he completely comprehended the spatial laws. His divine sense instantly sensed the space thousands of miles away. He arrived in an instant and then returned in an instant. The stars moved, and he constantly shifted his position. The void was filled with afterimages. His speed was definitely not inferior to that of emperors of the same level. He looked at his own level and found that he had actually reached the peak of the mid-level Tao Master realm. As long as he experienced a deadly battle, he could break through to the peak of the Tao Master realm at any time. Yi Qinghan did not have time to rejoice. He set his eyes on the origin of metal. At this moment, the origin of metal Taoist body. This was his goal. His powerful mental strength enveloped the origin of metal and forcefully suppressed it into his limbs and bones. The origin of metal was extremely fierce. It wanted to tear Yi Qinghan's body apart and break free from its shackles. The pages of the divine martial imperial codex kept flipping, and the 9 Revolution Chaos Tao Body chapter appeared. This page of the Imperial Codex suppressed the origin of metal and forcefully imprisoned the origin of metal in Yi Qinghan's body. 1 page tore and 1 page suppressed. Yi Qinghan was bathed in a river of blood. His injured body was constantly healing and being torn apart. The 9 Revolution Chaos Tao body was not easy to cultivate. Even the origin of metal Taoist body, which was the most basic special constitution, was not something that could be created by humans. This was a heaven-defying act. Just like every powerful special constitution, it would be punished by the heavens. The heavens were merciless and could not kill him. Only then would he be able to prove his Tao. Yi Qinghan wanted to be above all others. He had to endure this heart-wrenching pain. Roar. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and roared. His golden bones were shattered, and his handsome face was distorted. The bloody corpse Lingji's medicinal properties in his blood began to erupt again. The remaining divinity continued to heal his injured body and condense his golden body. The imperial blood was tyrannical, and the countless essences allowed him to benefit greatly. However, he had to endure pain and torture that humans could not endure. The 9-revolution Chaos Tao body was only deduced by the previous great emperor. Yi Qinghan was the first to try it. No one knew if this constitution could be created. However, according to the Divine Martial Imperial Codex, if it could be created, it would definitely be the world's #1 special constitution. With an unparalleled physical body, one could tear apart an emperor's body and suppress the great Tao laws. With the origin of all laws gathered, comprehending the origin of laws was as easy as drinking water. Yi Qinghan endured the pain and torture in the depth. His will was tempered, but the outside world was even more terrifying. The imperial bloodline repeatedly attacked and killed the human elite. They were physically and mentally exhausted and could not rest. Even the imperial princes could not take it anymore. The young elites of the human race could not withstand this mental torture. They roared angrily and their eyes turned red. They were filled with despair. The Qilin tiger's intelligence was superb. It was not inferior to the human elite. It had already transformed into human form. It wore a golden crown on its head and looked like jade. It held a jade cup in its hand and drank wine. At this moment it was standing outside the space and looking down at the ancient space. A cruel smile appeared on its face. It said to the humanoid beasts beside it, "Don't be in a hurry to kill them. Learn to enjoy the fun." Killing imperial princes of the human race was as easy as blowing off dust. Chapter 212. The Qilin tiger had the blood of the godly emperor, and the concentration was very high. It was almost at the level of atavism. Its combat power was terrifying, and its intelligence was no less than that of the human race. It was also cold and cruel. I am destined to step on their bones, drink their imperial bloodline, and reach the endless peak. In this life, no one can stop me from proving my Tao. The Qilin tiger's eyes flashed. Through the laws in space, he looked at the tens of thousands of human elite disciples. Suddenly, his aura exploded, and his arrogance soared. The ancient space was boundless. Large swamps were lifeless. Once one fell in, they would die without a doubt. There were bones everywhere, and flesh turned into mud and sank into the swamps. Only the mountain range was a place of life. Lin Aoqiong, Nangong Shen, Dugu Baitian, and Xiao Yunyi's clothes fluttered, and blood dyed their battle robes red. Although it was the enemy's blood, they were exhausted. It had been 8 days, and the king-level bloodline kept harassing them. They could neither rest nor leave. There seemed to be no other choice but to wait for death. In these 8 days, the 4 of them had killed 6 king-level bloodline beasts. However, these beasts were not high-level. They were all sent by the Qilin tiger to die. At this moment there were only 60,000 human elites left. The death rate was more than 50%. Everyone's eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness. In such a dangerous place, their combat power and willpower were unearthed like never before. Unfortunately, even though their combat power had increased, they were still going to die here. Gu Qingyu's left chest was pierced, and his internal organs were almost shattered. At this moment, he narrowed his eyes and did not dare to rest. Mu Yu Tianxin's eyes became deep. He looked at Nangong Xiaobei and sighed secretly. If he knew this would happen, he would have been firm and refused to let him in. Shi Guo and the others were in a similar situation. Their spiritual power was exhausted, and their faces were as pale as paper. At this moment they had no other choice but to work together to fight against the 10,000 races. Why isn't Brother Yi back yet? Where did he go? Yi Lingyu frowned. Yi Jianma's vitality was in him. If he was not here, Yi Jianma would die without a doubt. I don't know. I sent a message, but I haven't received a reply yet. But looking at the situation, it's better if he doesn't come back. Gu Qingyu shook his head and smiled wryly. If one more person came, one more person would die. Only a Shenqi cultivator could change the situation. Yi Jian was cold and indifferent. He was neither sad nor happy. He was living for himself. He could not see any signs of life. There was only darkness in front of him. There was no light at all. There was nothing but endless destruction that wanted to devour him. Am I really going to die? He originally thought that the chance of survival was in his body and wanted to change the fate of the heavenly demon. Sigh. I've implicated Big Brother. F***ck. How can I completely revive the gold bricks? I want to smash these trash to death. Sure, Ji's blood and bones were ghastly. His eyes were sinister and seemed like they were going to split apart. Lin Wutian coldly stood in front of Gu Qingyu to protect him. Now that he had reached the initial level of Tao Master, his aura was restrained and he looked more like a sword. He looked at the tired Gu Qingyu and said, "Teacher, you should rest for a while. I will protect you." Gu Qingyu nodded slightly. Just as he was about to rest, he noticed that Nangong Shen had appeared. "Where is your leader, Yi Qinghan, and the little girl?" Nangong Shen asked directly. His voice was not loud, but it was enough to spread for dozens of miles. Many people were surprised that Nangong Shen did not use the time to rest. Why was he looking for a Tao Master cultivator? Gu Qingyu shook his head and answered honestly, "I don't know yet. I sent him a message. He will definitely reply when he receives it." Lin Aoqiong stepped forward and asked with a frown, "Can a junior solve this problem?" "He can't solve it, but the little girl on his shoulder can. Her Guqin Dao has reached the peak. She can instantly mobilize our qi, blood, and vital essence to relieve our fatigue. If she is here, the Qilin Tiger's harassment tactic will lose most of its effect," Nangong Shen said in a low voice. "Did they die in battle?" Lin Aoqiong was puzzled. This place was so dangerous that even celestial sect experts could die in battle. If they died, they would not be able to find them. No, their life cards are not broken. It's just that their points have not increased. I'm worried that they are hiding. Nangong Shen's eyes were filled with anger. If they hid now, they would be no different from traitors. Impossible. I know him. He can't be hiding. He hasn't replied to my message. Either he is too far away to receive it, or he is trapped. That's right. Uncle Master can't be hiding. He has gone through countless deaths and never retreated. He can't be running now. Lin Wutian argued for Yi Qinghan without hesitation. At this moment, even Yi Lingyu nodded. He knew Yi Qinghan's character better than anyone else. He would never run away in the face of danger. Nangong Shen and Lin Aoqiong did not expect this team to be so cohesive. "I'll go look for them." Lin Aoqiong clenched his fists and looked into the void. He was calculating the time when the next king bloodline expert would attack. "No need. If they don't want to be found, you won't be able to find them." Nangong Shen shook his head. When Yi Qinghan's aura was concealed, even he could not find him. As for Emperor Yi, she did not exist. She did not have any aura at all. Roar. Just as everyone was discussing, another 10 king bloodline experts attacked. The number of king bloodline experts was increasing. This meant that the other party's patience was dwindling. They were about to launch an all-out attack. Nangong Shen and the others' expressions changed slightly. They gripped their swords and stood up. "Kill. If we can withstand one more attack, we will have more chances of survival." In the depths of the swamp, Yi Qinghan's body shone with golden light. His skin and flesh were torn open, and his golden bones were exposed. The golden light sparkled, and his treasure body was crystal clear. The divine martial imperial codex hung in the air, and the enlightenment divine lotus shone brightly. Emperor Yi comprehended the Tao, and Yi Qinghan forged his Tao body. The sound of the Guqin filled the air. As long as I can protect my will, I can forge the metal origin Tao body. I can create a precedent. I can achieve the 9 transformation chaos Tao body. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious. His mortal body had always been an obstacle in his path. Now that he had a chance to move it away, it was worth it no matter how hard it was. Fresh blood flowed out and new blood was born. His flesh was torn apart by the metal origin, but there was enough new flesh to imprison the metal origin in his body. The metal origin wandered in all directions, trying to break free. The water origin and dark element exploded at the same time, causing Yi Qinghan's body to shine with golden light and dim at times. If he wanted to forge the metal origin Tao body, he had to at least suppress the metal origin. But this process was cruel. Emperor Yi suddenly opened his eyes. He watched as Yi Qinghan suffered the cruelest torture in the world. He sat cross-legged on the ground and played the guqin with both hands. The sound of the guqin soothed and suppressed the two wills, causing the metal origin's resistance to gradually weaken. Yi Qinghan instantly felt less pressure. The divine martial imperial codex returned to Yi Qinghan's consciousness and spun continuously. The 9 revolution chaos Tao body actually left the divine martial imperial codex and merged directly into Yi Qinghan's body. Roar! The 9 heavens divine dragon roared as a worldly phenomenon appeared. Water dragons and golden dragons surrounded Yi Qinghan and intertwined with each other. It was as if a god's child had come into being, triggering the origin of all laws. Light flowed around the imperial corpse as the imperial robe fluttered in the wind. The withered corpse actually had a bloody color. The withered imperial corpse could actually produce blood. However, Yi Qinghan couldn't notice this at this moment. Otherwise, he would be scared silly. The parrot's mouth twitched as it stared at Yi Qinghan with eyes full of horror. Yi Qinghan's performance at this moment was beyond its comprehension. Even a true emperor's battle prowess during his youth was only at this level. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's hair turned golden. The azure dragon arm evolved again, turning his entire body into a golden color. His aura was sharp and noble. He raised his hand and grabbed, shattering the void. Iron stones comparable to 5th rank combat weapons were crushed by him. Metal origin Tao body. It had already taken shape. Yi Qinghan swallowed another small piece of the blood corpse Lingji, and a golden light shot into the 9 heavens. Heaven and earth rumbled, and the vast space around them trembled. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless lightning bolts crossed through time and space, illuminating the heaven and earth. Countless demonic beasts stopped in their tracks. The human elites also looked at the end of the void with frightened eyes. The lightning bolts were enough to destroy mountains, rivers, sun, and moon. Even the swamps were lifted up as water curtains covered the sky. Someone is undergoing a tribulation. What kind of tribulation is this? I don't know. Oh my God, even an imperial prince's tribulation is only at this level, right? Lin Aoqiong and the others narrowed their eyes. Despite their vast knowledge, they still didn't know what kind of tribulation this was. This kind of tribulation was too terrifying. They felt that they would be killed if they were to undergo it. At this moment, Yi Qinghan fiercely punched at the lightning tribulation. His fist shattered the lightning bolts, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. However, he recovered in an instant. The lightning bolts penetrated his golden body, and even his golden bones could be seen clearly. Come. You will only make my golden body Tao body more stable. Yi Qinghan was furious. He didn't even summon his heavy berserk saber. He relied on his physical body to resist the lightning tribulation. The immortal sect Tao robe was shattered. His physical body kept exploding, but it also kept regenerating and strengthening. In the end, the lightning tribulation couldn't shake his golden body. The damage it caused was far slower than the speed of recovery. Emperor Ye's music was majestic and surging. It was as if the great emperor himself had arrived. Yi Qinghan's qi, blood, and bloody corpse Ganoderma in his body were all mobilized. They flowed through his limbs and bones, healing any injury in an instant. This was the gold origin Tao body. With the gold origin protecting his body, no matter how powerful the lightning tribulation was, it couldn't shatter his origin. As long as he still had a breath left, he could recover instantly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan transformed into a golden dragon and soared into the sky. His golden iron fist penetrated the galaxy, broke through space, and collided with the lightning tribulation. He absorbed the power of lightning and instantly reached the peak of the Tao Master Realm. Boom! The lightning tribulation was destroyed and the tribulation clouds dispersed. The 9-colored light in the sky illuminated the ancient space. Countless living beings were stunned on the spot. The Qilin tiger was surprised. He looked at the space and searched for a long time, but he couldn't find Yi Qinghan's specific location. The ancient space was so big that even a fake emperor would have to spend a lot of time to travel around it. Moreover, he wouldn't go deep into the swamp. It seems that something has happened. Let's go and devour the qi and blood of the human elites. We'll use them as stepping stones to reach the Tao realm. The Qilin tiger's golden crown shone brightly. It was as if an ancient emperor had arrived. He tore open the void node and stepped toward the heroes of the human race. Qilin tiger, as an invincible emperor, when did you learn such boring tactics? Fight me if you have the guts! Nangong Shen shouted angrily. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.